This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, the board has completed its executive session and is back in public session. It is now 11:45 a.m. We're going to move into action items from executive session. We're going to start with case number 3833.
Case number 3833, I move to dismiss.
I will second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Case 3841.
Case 3841. I move to issue a notice of proposed action for one violation of ORS 687.021 sub 1 sub A, one violation of ORS 687.021 sub 1 sub B, and two violations of ORS 687.021 sub 1 C for a total civil penalty of $4,000 and refer to law enforcement.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Case 3824.
Case 3824, I move to issue a notice of proposed action for one violation of ORS 687.021 sub 1B, six violations of ORS 687.021 sub 1C, OAR 334-040-0010 sub 12, for a total civil penalty in the amount of $8,000 and to refer to law enforcement in California and Florida.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Case 3850.
Case 3850, I move to issue a notice of proposed action for one violation of ORS 687.021 sub 1A for a total civil penalty in the amount of $1,000.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Carol, unfortunately I can't see you, so I just have to make sure I'm getting a verbal from you.
Oh, this is Carol. I vote in favor.
Thank you. Opposed? Motion carries. Case 3831.
Case 3831, I move to issue a notice of proposed action for two violations of ORS 687.021 sub 1 sub A, one violation of ORS 687.021 sub 1 sub B, 9 violations of ORS 687.021 sub 1 sub C, one violation of ORS 687.021 sub 1 sub D, and one violation of OAR 334-040-0010 sub 12 for a total civil penalty of $14,000.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Carol votes aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Case 3887.
Case 3887, I move to issue a notice of proposed action for one violation of ORS 687.021 sub 1 sub B, 9 violations of ORS 687.021 sub 1 sub C, one violation of ORS 687.021 sub 1 sub B, one violation of OAR 334-040-0010 sub 12 for a total civil penalty of $12,000.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Carol Gray votes in favor.
Sorry, Carol. Thank you.
No, you're welcome.
Motion carries. Case 3888.
Case 3888, I move to issue a notice of proposed action for one violation of ORS 687.021 sub 1 sub A for a total civil penalty of $1,000.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Carol Gray in favor.
Opposed? Motion carries. Case 3832.
This is Carol Gray, case 3832. I move to issue a notice of proposed action for one violation of ORS 687.021 sub 1A, 6 violations of ORS 687.021 sub 1C, and one violation of OAR 334-040-0010 sub 12 for a total civil penalty of $8,000.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Carol Gray votes in favor.
Opposed? Motion carries. Case 3846.
Case 3846, this is Carol Gray. I move to issue a notice of proposed action for one violation of ORS 687.021 sub 1B, 6 violations of ORS 687.021 sub 1C, 2 violations of OAR 334-040-0010 sub 12 for a total civil penalty of $9,000.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Carol Gray votes in favor.
Opposed? Motion carries. Carol and Angie, we can see you now. Case 3847.
Case, I want to make sure I understood you, Beckett. You said you can see me now?
Can't see you now. Yep.
Okay, great. Case 3847, I move to issue a notice of proposed action for one violation of ORS 687.021 sub 1A for a total civil penalty of $1,000.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Case 3719.
Case 3719, I move to issue a notice of proposed action for revocation.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Case 3870.
Case 3870, I move to issue a notice of proposed action for one violation of ORS 687.021 sub 1 sub B, 5 violations of ORS 687.021 sub 1 sub C, 1 violation of ORS 687.021 sub 1 sub D, and 2 violations of OAR 334-040-0010 sub 12 for a total civil penalty of $9,000.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Case 3881.
Case 3881, I move to issue a notice of proposed action for one violation of ORS 687.021 sub 1 sub B, 5 violations of ORS 687.021 sub 1 sub C, 1 violation of ORS 687.021 sub 1 sub D, 2 violations of OAR 334-040-0010 sub 12 for a total civil penalty of $9,000.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Case 3882.
Case 3882, I move to issue a notice of proposed action for one violation of ORS 687.021 sub 1 sub A for a total civil penalty of $1,000.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Case 3883.
Case 3883, I move to issue a notice of proposed action for one violation of ORS 687.021 sub 1 sub A for a total civil penalty of $1,000.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Case 3816.
Case 3816. Case 3816, I move to dismiss and instruct staff to write a letter explaining our decision.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries.
Aye, sorry.
Case 3814.
Case 3814, I move to dismiss.
I second.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Case 3826.
Case 3826, I move to issue a letter of concern.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Case 3842.
Case 3842, I move to accept the voluntary surrender.
Second.
In favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Case 3839.
In case 3839, I move the motion to dismiss.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Case 3884.
Case 3884, I move to dismiss.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Case 3771.
Case 3771, I move to issue a notice of proposed action for one violation of ORS 687.021 sub 1B, three violations of ORS 687.021 sub 1C, one violation of ORS 687.021-1D, one violation of OAR 334-040-0010 sub 12, for a total civil penalty of $6,000, and move to law enforcement. Notify law enforcement.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Case 3862.
Case 3862, I move to issue a notice of proposed action for one violation of ORS 687.021 sub 1A for a total civil penalty in the amount of $1,000.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Case 3827.
In case,
I have,
In case 3827, I move to accept the voluntary surrender.
second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Case 3886.
Case 3886, I move to approve the application.
And I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Case 3800.
Case 3800, I move to revoke.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Case 3762.
Case 3762, I move to issue a notice of proposed action for 1 violation of ORS 687.021 sub 1B, 13 violations of ORS 687.021 sub 1C, 1 violation of ORS 687.021 sub 1D, 1 violation of OAR 334-040-0010 sub 12 for a total civil penalty of $16,000.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Case 3085. Oh, I'm sorry. Case 3865.
In case 3865, I move to issue a notice of proposed action for 1 violation of ORS 687.021 sub 1A for a total civil penalty of $1,000.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Case 3843.
Case 3843, I move to notice a proposed action of revocation.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Case 3085.
Case 3085, I move to accept the voluntary surrender.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Case 3758. Yes.
In the case of, in case 3758, I move to issue a notice of proposed action for revocation.
We just moved to revoke.
Move to revoke, okay.
I second. Got it.
Sorry. In the case of 3758, I move to revoke the license.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Case 3765.
In case 3765, I move to revoke the license.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Case 3813.
Case 3813, I move to rescind the revocation and send a letter of concern regarding reporting requirements of address changes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
I was thinking, I know we just came from a big break, but if you think we should do like 5 minutes so everybody get their food and then we can finish from there, or do you want to go like you and I talked about?
We can do, I'm happy to do that.
I think, would that work for you guys?
I move we take a 5-minute break.
I second.
All in favor of a 5-minute break?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Yeah, sorry about that. We got back a little late and then our food got here now. So they're just going to grab their food and then we'll come right back on. So.
This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, welcome back, everyone. It's 12:11 p.m. We're going to move on to board business. I'm going to turn it over to Director Ruark.
Thank you. So I'm going to go through, there's a few things that I want to go through. I'm going to go through my director's report, which covers our current budget and financial situation, our staffing situation, board member recruitment. And then I'm going to talk about a budget rebalance that I'm suggesting that the board do. And then I'm going to go over or talk about our COOP plan. That's continuity of operations plan. So I'm just going to start with my director's report. So about 14 months, and so you'll see, I want to also say some of the numbers on this narrative report might be a little different than the other numbers. It's just simply because when I did this report, those were the numbers, and then 2 weeks later, when I pulled the numbers before the board meeting, they're a little bit different, but don't worry about it. It's definitely as it should be. There's nothing weird there. So almost 14 months into this biennium, the 23-25, as of September 20th, the board maintains a bank balance of about $284,000, which for us represents about 2.5 months of working capital. Ideally, we should have about 4 months of working capital, which we had for several years until the pandemic hit. And, having that extra reserves is what allowed this board to make it through the pandemic. Our last budget cycle, our last biennium, was what we call a negative biennium, which, it took about a little over $200,000 of our reserves to make it through the last biennium. And it's because of COVID, is the long and short of that. Like I said, we strive to maintain, our goal is 4 months of working capital. The minimum we like to have is 2 months of working capital, which we have now. And we've been able to maintain that, for many years. And however, as I'll talk later about some fee issues, the idea is to have 4 months of working capital, so in case something were to happen, we can make it through it. I'm also going to talk a little bit about rebalancing our budget. So you guys have not experienced this because the last 2 budget cycles, I did not rebalance the budget because I wanted to see the impact of the pandemic. So rebalancing the budget basically after the first year of the budget cycle, it's a 2-year cycle, I look at all the numbers and I go, okay, we're going to overspend in this category, we're going to underspend in this category, and basically we move money, from it's potential money because we earn money every month and we use that money to operate. But we move the line item and say, okay, we're going to increase this line item, we're going to decrease this line item to make the budget balance better. We do that after the first year of the budget cycle. So hopefully by the second year of the budget cycle, the budget is much better balanced. Like I said, we haven't done it the last 2 biennium because I wanted the governor's office and I wanted the board and everybody to be able to see exactly how the pandemic hit us and what areas it hit us the hardest in. So, and we'll talk about the budget rebalance a little bit more after I finish this director's report. But the need to rebalance the budget is, like I said, due to many reasons. Our income remains steady, and it's based on our fees. And what's been hard, that's an easy line item or an easy amount of money to determine our fees. What am I trying to say here? Hold on a second, I had a meltdown. So our budget is based on our fees and our civil penalties and other factors, other incomes that we have, like initial applications and new licensure. I can tell you almost to the penny how much we're going to make every year in our renewal fees, right? Because we have a set number of licensees. What I can tell you is how much money we're going to make for civil penalties, how many new applicants we're going to get, and things like that. So when I was building this budget, when I created it, our labor unions were still in contract negotiations, and so my best guess for projecting our payroll costs, including our cost of living, was by using what they call the Western States or Portland CPI, which at the time I submitted this budget was around 4%, and declining actually. It was around 3.5. I would have used 4%, and I did use 4% as what I thought our increase would be. So after our budget was adopted this last budget cycle for this biennium, the contract negotiations, the state agreed to pay a 13.05% salary increase over the 23-25 biennium to employees. Also a one-time $1,500 per person bonus to the employees, and that was to help offset the higher cost of living at that time because inflation was going through the roof. That's about 7% more than I anticipated it was going to be. for the budget. That equates to about $117,000 difference. We also had an increase in our cost of goods and services, specifically our state assessments. So other agencies that are losing revenue and not being able to basically make ends meet that service us, like our IT department and things like that, to be able to keep up with the cost of living or the increases in inflation, they increased our fees. So I'll give you an example. Our computer fees that we pay for Microsoft 365, it's more than just that. It's a whole broad range of things, but it gets billed under Microsoft 365. Went from about 14,000 to about 24,000 per year. Okay. So, and that's a required system that we have to use in the state. So I couldn't have anticipated that we would have a $10,000 increase, in those things. So we also had a administrative hearing this budget cycle that costs us about $50,000 in legal fees. We don't often get administrative hearings that cost that much money. We'll get administrative hearings that'll sometimes cost us $2,000 to $3,000. We've had them as much as 10. This was kind of an unprecedented hearing that cost us, it capped at $50,000. It cost us much more than that, about $75,000. So we can only recover $50,000, and good luck getting that because we have to do a collection process for that. So because of those things, and so we also had a slower than projected rebound in the growth of our new applicants. This is kind of a strange one. Pre-pandemic, our applications were going through the roof. I mean, we had huge growth.
2,900 and 1,000 a year.
Yeah, 2,900. We had huge growth. When the pandemic hit, it stopped. And then it started declining. And it declined because people were leaving the state. Not a huge amount of people. I'm going to say about 500, looking at our statistics, left the state of Oregon and got rid of their license. About another 1,000 people decided not to renew their license during the pandemic. They just let it either, some of them let it lapse, or some of them actually put it in
retirement.
Or
inactive.
Or inactive, or some retired for that matter. So our growth, was through the roof. And when I did this budget, I did the budget, not this budget, but the one previous to this, right before the pandemic. And I anticipated that growth. So that's one of the reasons we lost so much money the last biennium. But this biennium, I thought, okay, we're going to grow maybe, 1% or 5%. I think it was 5%. We've actually only grown about 1% every year in new applicants. So it's still just holding steady. We're not increasing, we're not decreasing. I guess it's good we're not decreasing, but we're not getting that growth that we expected to get back after the pandemic. Based on my projections, so I'm going to talk a little bit about staffing, and then I'm going to go back to the budget. I'm a little scatterbrained here because the way that I wrote this made sense at the time, but it doesn't make sense to me. Yeah. So what I'm going to do is I told you the kind of where the budget's at right now. I'm going to go over our staffing, our board member recruitment information, talk about the continuity of operations plan. Then I'm going to go through the budget rebalance a little bit more and give you a little more information on that. So our staffing, our office space does not have AC right now, does not have air conditioning. It looks like it's going to cost them several $1,000s to replace it. They've ordered the unit. It's one of those units they got to cut the roof out to get it in. It's a big office building, multi-story. So we have been without AC in our offices. We have no windows that open. So there's been a few times I've had to send staff home and close the office.
In the office.
Yeah, my window, we have temperature in there, so I can tell when it starts getting hot. You can tell anyway.
No.
But my window was 108 degrees here just a week ago. So that's going to resolve itself as time goes on, but I wanted to mention that to you in case you received any complaints that nobody's been able to get a hold of us. We pride ourselves in answering our phone. we're probably one of the few state agencies, or maybe even nationally, one of the government agencies that actually answers every phone call. Sometimes we miss them because we have only 5 lines, and, we have all staff online. Sometimes it goes to voicemail, but we return our calls and we answer our calls. And quite frankly, our LMTs have gotten used to that, and they're a little spoiled. And so when we have to leave the office at noon, because our offices are 90 degrees, you might get some kickback on that. It hasn't really happened. People have been understanding, but I wanted to make the board aware of, we've had to do that. We don't know when they're gonna repair the AC. We keep getting told that it's, the unit's been ordered, it's on its way. I don't know what they're waiting for, but I assume it's going to be after it gets cooling off, so we won't need it anymore.
When it comes to budgets, is it the landlord of the building's responsibility for
Correct.
the AC?
We're not paying anything, yeah.
Okay, and I can tell you, I happened to stop by the office during one of those 90 degrees in the office days.
Yeah.
That is no joke.
Yeah.
I about fell over backwards when I walked in the door.
Yeah, very hot.
Question?
Yeah.
This is separate than the heating system.
Yes.
Okay, just want to make sure, because that's our trend.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I just add on to this, I don't think we've shut down the office more than 6 hours. So,
Yeah. Just a few hours toward the end of the day when it gets really hot after lunch.
Have fans running, everybody's sitting around in shorts.
Yeah, I purchased fans
Trying to
for
stay
the
cool.
office and individual fans for everybody's desk.
They've been a big help.
And they've been really helpful, and I've allowed our office staff to wear shorts. Also, which is, I want them to stay there as long as they can and work, but when it gets too hot, we just send people home. And like I said, like Jeff said, it hasn't been more than a couple hours at the end of the day. We haven't sent anybody home at the beginning of the day. It's usually at the end of the day. So.
Can you guys all work at home if you wanted to?
They do. Everybody has that ability to work from home. The problem with working from home, and everybody can, and we've made it work. We made it work during the pandemic. Is that there's a lot of our stuff that needs to be accomplished in the office, and a lot of staff don't like to work from home. They don't enjoy doing it. Everybody has that option. I can't make them work from home, but I can give them that option. And some staff do work from home already, full time, and some work hybrid where they, if there's something that, the office is hot, we've had them go work from home during those times. So, yeah, I just can't make them work from home. So if they want to work in the office, I have to, have that office available for them. So.
Can you get a different office?
Well, here's the thing. I just moved in there. We only moved in there like 3 years ago. And I think it's going to be resolved. They are really responsive. It's a huge unit that they have. And so they've been calling out the AC people to reset the unit. And that's the problem. It keeps tripping where it shuts off.
Starts pulling all the air out of the attic and blowing it in.
Yeah. So they'll go up and reset it. It'll be good for 3 or 4 days. And then it goes back to not being good. And they call them and they get a service and they come back out and do it. I just wanted to make everybody aware of that in case you got a phone call or somebody said, I wasn't able to reach your office. We always do call everybody back.
One of the updates that I received is that the units that are in the facility are older. And to replace those units with the current manufactured units that are required to be more EPA friendly and everything, they're much larger. And so they actually have to go in and redo the whole attic space in order for the new units to even be able to fit. And crane them in through some hole in the roof line, I assume. So I think that's why they're having such difficulty. If it was a simple replacement of one unit for the same unit that already fit there, I would probably fix all of it.
They're actively on it. It's just, they're stuck waiting for it to come in and then getting it scheduled to get replaced.
And Melissa, if you haven't been into the office, this is a much professional office
I
than the last one.
I should go to the
This is where the Oregon Heart Center is.
Mhm.
It's up on the second.
Just don't go on a hot day.
I live over by Idaho, but I'll try.
We're in the neighborhoods.
Yeah, it was we moved to that office space after being in a location that just wasn't healthy for our staff. It was a dated building. We had transients often outside our front door and
Needles in the parking lot.
needles in the parking lot. We had people that were stealing stuff, and when the cops were chasing them, run through our parking lot.
Swooping in the ocean.
We have two transients that like to smoke marijuana right outside my office door, and it went through the fans and it made our office smell like marijuana. So lots of problems with our old space.
For
And,
some reason, he sent me out for snacks about
yes. So this was a much better office, and actually they're really, really great people. I think it would work out well for us. It's just a little hiccups.
So all the fees will pay for the air conditioning, right?
We're not paying anything for
We
it.
don't
Yeah.
pay either. For that, yeah.
In fact, I'll go over that a little bit more when I go over the budget, but we don't pay anymore. We don't pay for janitorial. That's part of our lease.
Okay.
We don't pay utilities. That's part of our lease, and we don't pay for janitorial, utilities, and there was something else. No, it's those two. Janitorial and utilities. We still pay for our alarm system. So yeah, those are included before we have to pay for those. So let's talk a little about board member recruitment. I want to say congratulations to Carol. She was reappointed just a few days ago. And she's going to be with us till 2028 now. She's got 4 more years. And we still have the public health board member position to fill. Kaite's working on trying to contact, I did too, this individual that might be interested. And Melissa, our board member, Melissa Fulper, is also working on trying to get this individual that showed some interest in this position. I had a board meeting or not a board meeting, but a meeting with other health professional regulatory boards. We meet about once, I think it's once a week. And it's, the dental board, the medical board, a bunch of different boards. And I expressed to them that I was interested in anybody that they might know that is interested in the board member position. And they said, absolutely, we'll trade you. We need public member positions. So if you know anybody that is a public member that's not affiliated with, the health profession, that wants to be a public member for a board, all of those other health boards need public members. So the medical board, dental board, all those boards. So PT, physical therapist board. So I thought I would shout out because I told them I would, and they're going to shout out to their membership to try to get our position filled. So any questions about our recruitment?
I do have one question. When are the hearings possible to swear in the members?
We just had it. We just had it on the 26th, I think it was, of September. Well, not even that. It's not 26th. It was the 24th or 25th, where Carol was sworn in, or Carol was reappointed.
When would the next session?
The next one is, let's see, November. It's in November, and I would have to have, I think it's October. It's in my email somewhere. I think it's October 15th. I would have to have the application in and submitted to the governor's office at that point, by that date.
So we'd be looking at the one after that.
Yes. Unless somebody made an application right now, then I can get it in time to get it to the next appointment, executive appointment.
Thank you.
Any other questions about that? I'm going to also mention this. I was asked by the Oregon Pain Commission. So the Oregon Pain Management Commission is, and I think our LMTs have to take the pain management module for renewal. So the Oregon Pain Management Commission is opening a recruitment for 2 members. The Oregon Health Authority is seeking applications and recommendations for candidates in the following categories. They want a licensed healthcare professional with a preference for massage therapists or osteopathic manual manipulators. I don't know what those are, or chiropractic care. So they specifically want a massage therapist to be on this board, the Oregon Pain Management Commission. Or the other position they're opening for is a person experiencing pain. So someone who's in chronic pain, a chronic pain patient, they would like to add to their board. I think it's a 16-person board. It is overseen by the legislators. There's 2 legislators that are on that. They're not voting members, but they're on that board. And then there's a liaison for the governor's office that's also on that board. It's a fairly high-profile board. There's a lot of work. It looks like their board meetings run from 8 to noon, and there's 4 meetings a year. and it looks like some of them can be remote. I wanted to send that out since it's a public meeting and I'm gonna also send something out to our LMTs. But if any of our board members, or our board members know of somebody that might be interested in being on this board, like I said, they're specifically asking for massage therapists. So I think it would be a feather in someone's cap and definitely good for massage therapy to have somebody on that board.
And only 4 meetings a year.
4 meetings a year. I looked at all their meetings. It looks like they run from about 8 to noon. So it's about a 4-hour meeting. It looks like mostly what they don't do any discipline. All they do is policy stuff, rewriting policies, talking about trends, government trends. They work with the legislators a lot about new laws to deal with pain management and opioids and things like that. So it's sort of a high profile with the opioid crisis right now. It's kind of a higher profile board member position. So it would definitely be somebody that's interested in making a difference in that area.
Is it conflict of interest to be on 2 boards?
No. You can be on as many boards as you'd like.
But the person they are looking for, someone who experiences chronic pain, can't be a healthcare person.
Yes, it says, a person experiencing pain. Actually, the way it's written, it says a person experiencing pain or a caregiver of a person experiencing pain and who is not a licensed healthcare provider. So that position is not a licensed healthcare provider position.
Oh, I could be.
But OMTs may have clients that are suffering from that may be interested.
Yeah.
Just if anybody here is interested.
Yeah.
That's nice that they're including.
Yeah, they already have 2. They have 2 other board members on right now that are chronic pain patients. Well, actually, I think one is a person that dealt with chronic pain. The other one is a caregiver for someone with chronic pain and also kind of an advocate. They want to add this position because they want that perspective from somebody who's dealing with chronic pain. So, any questions about that at all? I just got that, so I wanted to add it. It's not on my narrative, but I wanted to give that to you guys because I just got that in my email. So I'll talk about our COOP plan. So in January 11th, 2023, Governor Kotek, she issued her directive requiring state agencies, boards, and commissions to have in place a continuity of operations plan. So our continuity of operations plan gets updated. I built one for the board. It went to the last business meeting we had in Hood River. The board reviewed the COOP plan at that time and approved it. And we updated it. There was some suggestions for updating it. I updated it. I sent it off to the governor's office. It actually goes now through the Office of Emergency Management. And so I sent it off then. The governor then said that I want that plan updated every year and submitted every year by September 30th to the updated plan submitted to emergency management and the governor's office. So I updated the plan and it's in your packet. Hopefully you had time to take a look at it. And it's just the same plan. There's a few little updates based on, we switched from having our own IT person to state IT, and just a few little tweaks to it. But it is for you to vote on, to approve the updated COOP plan, and for me to send it off to emergency management of the governor's office.
So,
any questions about the COOP plan?
are there any questions about the plan? Yeah, can we get a motion to accept and submit the plan
So
as
moved.
presented to the board?
So moved.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Yes.
And who did the second?
I did.
You did, okay.
Yep.
And anyone that wants to see a couple of pictures from that, I have them here
Excellent. Oh, yeah.
from last year.
Oh, that's from our strategic plan. We'll
Yeah, our
talk about
strategic planning lady that did.
that. Yeah. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about, the final thing is the budget rebalance. In your board packet, there is a couple of documents. The first document I'd like you to take a look at, or if you had already looked at it, I'm just going to explain it to you, is,
Which one is it?
I will show you. It looks like this. It's a profit loss budget versus actual. and it goes from July 1st, 2023 to September 16th, 2024. So this is what our budget looks like right now. As of September 16th, it looks different now because it's been, a few days. But as of September 16th, the top part of that is how much money the board has, the income that the board has made. The bottom part is what we've spent. What I want to put your attention to is that final column over there where it says percent of budget. As you can see, so actually I'll talk about the middle column. This is to date. So this is not a percent of the entire budget. This is what the budget should be at right now. So we should have that much money on the income section in the middle column right now at this time in our budget cycle. We have the money we have on the left side is what we actually have earned as of this date, September 16th. What I want to show you is that we're 92%, 92.04% funded as of the 16th of September. That's pretty good, okay? We should be 100% funded by right now, or maybe even a little more than that. But we're 92%, it's not bad. If you look at the expenses, again, the left column is how much we've spent. The middle column is what we're budgeted to spend, and you can see that we've only spent 89.55% of what we're projected to spend at this time in the budget. So that's good, right? We're under, our expenses are under what they should be. So that's that document. If you look at the second document, which is July, this is the entire budget for the entire year, or the entire biennium, 2 years. Again, the same columns, right? This is what we should be. Okay, the middle one is what our budget is right now for the entire 2 years. The left one is how much we've made, okay? And the right one is how much, the percentage of the budget that's funded. We should be 56% at the time that this was written funded, and we're 55.85% funded. That's pretty good. That's where we should be. If you look at the bottom, the expenses, the left column is how much we've spent. The middle is what we anticipate spending for the entire budget cycle. And then the one on the far right is what percentage of the budget have we spent. We're halfway through the budget cycle, right? A little over halfway. So we should be about 60%. In expenditures, we're 54%. So we're underspending our budget, which is what you want to do, right? Is underspend your budget. Okay. And then the third document looks like this. Okay. And this is what I call the budget rebalance. Actually, I'm sorry, it looks like this. This is the one I want you to look at right here. Okay. It looks like this. It has the far left has how much money we've earned and how much we've spent per line item to date. Okay, as of this, when I did this was the first year of the biennium. So as of July 1st, 2024. If you look at the middle column, that's what our approved budget is for the entire year or the entire biennium. So the middle column is what we can spend and what our earnings should be for the entire biennium. And then the far right one is my rebalance. And what I'm going to do is explain to you what this rebalance does. If you look at each line item, what I've done with the narrative over there, I've either told you whether I propose that line item to be increased, reduced, or to leave it the same. And this is based on the actual money that we've earned the first year of the budget. And I'll give you an example, like the licensure fees, okay, which is toward the bottom of the income. It says licensure fee. The board has earned, as of July 1st of 2024, so the first year of the biennium,
So would an example of that be the janitorial 175?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So I got a late bill at the beginning of the biennium. When we moved into this new place, we stopped having a janitor, so I did away with that line item. So I got a late bill from him. He's like, "Oh, I forgot. I'm sorry. This bill's been sitting here. I'd like to pay." He sent it to me, and we owed it. It was a bill, and so I paid it, but we didn't have a line item for that, so I had to make a line item again for that and increase it to that amount. The amount of one
Like
bill.
you got hit by ADHD tax.
You had what? I'm
The
sorry.
ADHD tax.
Yes. Correct.
I have a question about the rent. So I presume that we under budgeted for rent because when
Yeah.
this budget was created, we were still in negotiation on the new space. Am I getting that right?
No. What happened on that is that, so right in the middle, every single year our rent goes up 3%, I think it is. It's written into our contract. This is an error on my part. When I budgeted this, I didn't budget the second 3% into it. On top of that, I just made a math error. It's a math error on my part. So, so.
I wouldn't know what those are.
I still like you, Bob.
Yeah, I know. Here I am sitting here going, "Gosh, please don't pick the one not discuss rent."
Nice catch, Carol.
Yeah, it was a nice catch. That was just I did the first 3%, I did do the second 3% on that, so. But the rest of them are, they're pretty good. The one that is pretty drastic and that I'm very happy with is this licensure fee. It means that we're having more people renew their licenses, less people going inactive. We only get the entire licensing fee when people actually renew their license instead of going inactive. And the last two biennium, we've been hit pretty hard about people going inactive. And that people have stopped doing that, and people have stopped leaving. They're staying in Oregon now. So.
We used to do 5, 6, 7 verifications a month, maybe as many as 10 or 12.
Yeah.
And now it's back down to the ones
Yep.
and twos.
So any questions about what I'm trying to do here? So what I need, because our budget is written in our rules, And because this is, you guys are the only people that can approve or disapprove the budget. The motion I have is on the bottom of this document I just showed you. And the motion is, if you accept the budget, is to move to accept the budgetary limited expenditure rebalance of $2,657,430.59 for the 23-25 biennium, and move to take the proposed budget rebalance to a rules hearing. Anything that changes our rules has to go to a rules hearing. So this budget will move into a rules hearing, and then after the rules hearing, it'll come back, and then you guys will approve it, and it'll go into our rules.
Through the rulemaking process.
Yeah, it goes through the rulemaking process.
Any discussion on his budget?
I have no questions.
Cool. I move to accept the budgetary limited expenditure rebalance of $2,657,433.59 for the 23-25 biennium. And move to take the proposed budget rebalance to a hearing, rules hearing.
To the rules hearing process.
Yeah, say rules hearing process. Yeah, that's my bad.
I did, didn't I?
Yeah,
No,
I'll second that.
you say rules hearing.
say rules hearing process. You don't have to read the
Rules
whole thing.
hearing process.
Move to take the proposed budget rebalance to a rules hearing,
Making process.
to a rules making process.
She's our rules coordinator, so I should have asked her.
I'll second that. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Bob.
Yeah.
Just for the record, Carol did say aye. I saw her.
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so let me see. I think I got everything from you guys. Yeah. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Okay, this is where I did have a break planned in. Do we need to take a break, or do we want to move into compliance at this point?
I'm fine to move into compliance.
Ditto.
Okay, let's go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. So licensure, as Director Ruark pointed out, remains steady both in initial applications and renewals, and we're seeing a slight uptick in growth. We also have already spoke about the air conditioning system, so I'll skip over that. We did send licensure specialist Rowena to a 2-day customer service training in September. I have done the quarterly check-in regarding that with them, and there's pretty positive feedback from Row, and she's going to do some work between that check-in and the next check-in to parse out some things that she learned that she's then going to hopefully train to all of the staff at the office to assist us, with difficult customers, et cetera, on the phones and other customer service issues. Not that we're experiencing, but I always think it's a good idea to keep that fresh.
They always have new techniques.
Yep. Compliance, on the other hand, has been busy. Our civil penalty payments are trending up. That's good. Mitch has done his annual collections account receivable report. That's been reviewed and off to the Secretary of State and the Department of Revenue. We've been getting positive press, and as part of some of that positive press, we're getting more attention, which is good. I did try to send out a recent article from the Willamette Week, so that you would all be informed in case our licensees contact you guys directly regarding any of that, et cetera. So I want to always kind of keep you so you're not surprised by anything. I expect that the Willamette Week article and that journalist told me that it's a distinct possibility that'll be an ongoing series of articles. I was pretty pleased with the initial article that came out. I'm really happy that they took the time to go and bring in that local representative, who also happens to be Asian descent, which I think is a perfect fit. I'm hopeful that they are going to want to get involved in working on a solution for the IMB problem. Speaking of solutions, the city of Gladstone, I spoke to the chief of police, I think, just a couple of days ago. They're moving forward with initiating their local ordinance project, which the board supplied the model for them to base that on, and then have gone and they've asked us to review their drafts, which is fantastic, and made a few editing suggestions, and they've taken those. They did ask me actually to come and testify or be available to answer questions to their city council, but unfortunately I'll be in DC during that. So I did say if anybody had any questions, that I'd be happy to respond in writing or via email for them afterwards. So that's moving forward. We are also still encouraging Newburgh and McMinnville to adopt and pass similar ordinances. I think at this point, they might be waiting for Gladstone's to be finalized so they can just steal it. I don't blame them. And we are hopeful that we can, I'm working with the Gladstone chief and city administrator and attorney to start talking about this ordinance project at the Oregon League of Oregon Cities, the group of the city attorneys that have kind of a group together, as well as the city administrators, and start talking about hopefully its success. And if it is successful and Gladstone does a good job of enforcing it themselves, I think we'll start seeing this pop up in other municipalities as well. And hopefully we just keep pushing these IMBs out of these towns that want to take this this approach. And unfortunately, that probably means that all of this get condensed in Portland, and then we'll have to deal with that when we deal with that. The FSMTB Establishment Task Force, that was formed with a group of members to work on and discuss and come up with a model toolbox for other state agencies, should they choose to begin licensing or permitting facilities. And since Oregon is one of the few states that does that, we were chosen to participate on that task force. I was the participant, and I will be going to the DC annual conference to present our final toolbox and findings on that, and supplying all the other states with model policies, rules, laws, forms, inspection sheets, citations. It's a fantastic package to put together, and hopefully making it that easy to kind of adopt this program, we'll get a lot more states that will then start to regulate the facilities as well as the practitioners. Director Ruark and I were both contacted by a human trafficking intelligence research analyst who is working for Oregon Department of DOJ, and they have been tasked to draft a report to the legislature about the IMB problem in Oregon. I'm glad they came to us so that they could actually get facts. Unfortunately, Director Ruark was out with COVID the day we were meeting, so I met with them and we went over a lot of information about what the realities are. I am hopeful that all the information that they gathered from all the sources that they seek, that they will be able to put something together that is accurate and present it to the legislature. And hopefully the legislature would move forward with something that will help us address this. That could include, this analyst told me that anything's on the table, including increasing enforcement, budgeting for increased enforcement, and working the criminal side of it instead of just the civil side, whether it be our agency or another agency, an existing one. They're really trying to think outside of the box.
Jeff, so this could actually help with our stuff when we say refer to law enforcement, and law enforcement isn't.
Well, I'll give you just a pie in the sky example. The OLCC, which is the Liquor Commission, their investigators are quasi law enforcement. They have very limited law enforcement powers to write citations for criminal acts, a misdemeanors of over serving and those kind of rules related to alcohol. So they can actually go in, observe the violation, also a crime, and issue a ticket, just like you get for speeding, into the local courts for whatever jurisdiction that they're in.
they could do that for us. And instead of referring it to law enforcement, we could write the ticket ourselves and refer it to the courts and force them to deal with these. But that would create a lot of other issues that would have to be worked out, because we contract with PIs for the bulk of our investigations, and they could not be police officers. So we would have to have probably employees that are investigators that were empowered that way. Or they could switch that to a whole nother, I guess they could even say, you know, we don't want you dealing with the IMDs anymore. This is a human trafficking issue, and the Department of Justice is gonna go and work these cases. And then we go back to the good old days, 15 years ago, of actually only enforcing regulations that relate directly to our licensees instead of our unlicensees.
And probably referring them if you have any indication.
Director Ruark and myself and our staff are going to be actively watching this, because based on my experience being a government employee for 30 years, there's also great potential that they could screw something up tremendously. And so we're going to do everything we can to monitor that they'll allow us to see, and do our very best to not lobby for, you know, what we hope is the best resolution for this if they come up with one. But you may start seeing this as the session starts to kick in. You may see proposed bills and things like that. And like I said, Director Ruark and I will be monitoring those and keeping you. And hopefully it comes out fantastic.
Yeah, there's a kind of a rule with directors that you don't want a huge feature article coming out during a legislative session, but we had it happen, right, with the Land Week article. So we don't know if that's gonna draw anybody's attention or not. We hope it does in a positive way.
At least they reached out to us.
Yeah.
Forward.
Right.
That's a positive.
Of course, this is like these things perpetuate. Someone else reads the article, and Director Ruark got an email from someone that now wants to do some statistical analysis of things and from a national standpoint.
Nice.
And so we are getting some more attention from this, and our goal is to always take that attention and turn it into positive change, so. But it's not our circus.
Right.
So we can only do what we can do, as long as you know where we stand and what we're working on. That also takes a lot of time, but I think it's worth it. Are there any questions about the licensure compliance report? Excellent. Thank you, Jay.
Thank you.
So on this one,
Mhm.
I'm just gonna say a few things. So our bylaws say that my evaluation has to be done in executive session unless I allow it to be done in public session, and I want it to be done in public session. So I'm totally okay with this, and I have no idea about any of this. So this process is a process that the governor has instructed us directors to have this review, this 360 review. Basically, it's an evaluation, and there's these guidelines that we have to do, like we have to send stuff out to board members and interested parties, and she'll talk more about that. But I turned this entire thing over to Akaite and our board chair, so I absolutely know nothing about what's going to be said. But what I'd like to do is step outside in case there's anybody here that feels like they need to say something. You're not looking me in the eye, you know, you can feel comfortable. If it's something that you want to, you know, say, that you can say it without me sitting here looking at you. All right? What's that? Oh, it did? Anyway, I'm gonna step out for this.
Owl.
Okay. Ron, it's all yours.
Pardon me?
It's all yours.
Oh, it's all mine.
It's yours.
Okay, does everybody have a copy of that they can refer to? Just to give you briefly the process that we used, SurveyMonkey was sent out to stakeholders. We got 12 responses back, and Akaite and I took all that information, aggregated it, and turned it into the template that the state's asking for. So what you have in front of you are the answers of the 12 questions. that were asked, and this is what would be submitted to the state. Did everybody get a chance to look at it? Are there any questions? Yes.
So, this morning was the first time I've been able to get into my email. I noticed that the Survey Monkey need to be returned by August 20th.
Yes.
So I am interested in completing one. I have nothing negative to say, but I'm guessing it's too late.
It would have to be for next year. Any other questions?
I thought this was the supplement to that.
That's something else. That's what,
I thought it was the
yes,
supplement.
yes. But
Okay.
do you have that? Yeah.
Carol, any questions? At this point, if there aren't any questions about it, I think we can go ahead, if we can, get a motion to accept and submit this.
Yeah, both.
Yeah, so we'll just need to vote to submit this report.
I will move to accept and submit this report.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Seems good to me. Well done.
Yep, go grab them, thank you.
That's interesting. This one came through Survey Monkey and my agency is going through another agency.
Really? Sometimes you gotta do.
Back us up.
That was the agency that tried to answer questions for us about the
Really?
bigger, yeah, remember? So when this comes around again, just things for us to know is that it is time limited and there's nothing we can do about it because Hayate is on a countdown to turn it in. So, next year we'll have an idea of what the process is.
Yeah.
So, thank you, everyone. Okay, I think this would be a good time to take our break. Could we get a motion to take 15?
I move to take a 15-minute break.
Second.
Melissa and Maria, let's come back at 1:18. Or I'm sorry, we need to vote. All in favor of a 15-minute break?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Please return at 1:18.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, Ben?
Yeah.
Hang in a second, just notice, we'll stand up.
Yeah.
My
headache.
Excellent, that's good.
I know.
I
Not a
have,
lot of people can.
yeah, I have migraine meds.
I think next year we'll get a lot more people.
Look at this.
Because I think we just need to do it.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yep.
Oh.
Yeah, she's
I
probably-
Yeah,
can't-
the funny thing is they,
How about the ketamine though?
they eliminated.
Oh, yeah.
The directions, we're like, so
So they,
they have 2 weeks, give them a
After
reminder,
her niece.
you know, so we follow that script exactly.
Those are the wives that-
But yeah,
No, she was Nope, not before this
You
time.
did such a
Not big,
low
drinking all the water.
dose. You don't.
Oh, my God.
Don't. I was real high.
I don't know that I would.
15 years ago.
I know, I get, yeah, I will.
I have a simple computer.
I'm not.
Oh, they were into us like crazy back then.
Yeah.
This conference will now be recorded.
Can you hear me, Carol?
I can hear you. Yeah.
But I can hear them. Can you guys hear us?
Yeah. The remote ones.
Can you hear me?
Now you can. Yeah, you were on mute.
Yes, we are. Excellent. We're back now.
Yeah, we're good
So
now.
pretty much, yeah, what I said is that we received applications for the committee, and that the board staff have made their recommendation and forwarded it to the board to review. And we're just asking if anybody had any questions. If no questions, if they would like to accept the recommendation and approve the committee, so we can get, and then the next step would be working on the committee assignment, so we can get to work.
Carol, did you have any questions?
No, I don't. I read them and they look fine to me.
Wonderful, thank you. Okay, so we have a motion.
I motion that we accept the committee recommendations.
I second that.
Give that to Scott. All in favor of accepting the committee recommendations?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes. Thank you.
All right. Okay.
Board assignments.
Yep. It logged me off, so 1 second here. Okay, so for years, we've had liaisons for different, basically different collateral duties for board members. There's a list here of our current board assigned duties, and as you can see by the list, that a lot of people aren't even here anymore. It was before Melissa and Ray came on the board. I brought this to the board, asking them to make reassignments, and everybody wanted to wait until after we got 2 new board members on that were going to be here for a while. So these are the current positions that need to be filled, basically. And as you can see by the list, I'll explain some of these to you, like the CEU person. When we have somebody that submits a continuing education and we deny them, like it doesn't fit within a particular area that it's supposed to, they have the ability to appeal that. And they'll oftentimes appeal it to, what we do is they'll appeal it to me first. And if I can't make that determination, then I will send them to the assigned board member to make that final determination. That assigned board member will either make that determination or decide that it needs to go to the whole board to see if we're going to accept it or not. But mostly that individual makes the determination. So that's just an example. The rest of these, like these committee assignments, like the Rules Committee and other committees, those individuals will attend committee meetings as non-voting members. And the purpose of them attending the committees is to be able to come back to the board and keep the board informed about what's going on with the particular committee, what the progress is, what they're doing. Because, you know, how a committee works is the committee works for the board, right? They're just an extension of the board. And since you guys only meet, once every other month, and they're limited amounts of time for 1 day or a half day, you guys can say, listen, we want to rewrite a particular rule. We would like to send it to the committee with these directions. We want the rule to cover this area that's maybe missing. And then they send it to the Rules Committee. The Rules Committee does all the work, comes up with a proposed rule and brings it back to the board, and the board can either approve it, amend it, adjust it, whatever. So that's how the committee liaison works. You basically have to attend those committee meetings, and you have to come back to the board and tell the board what's going on with those committees. And the rest of these, some of them are set in our bylaws, like the Executive Director Search Committee, that's set in our, already set as the Executive Committee, which is the Vice Chair, the Chair, and the immediate past Chair. But the other ones, we can assign, the board can assign whoever they'd like to, or whoever has an interest in being that particular liaison. So we're asking to get our list updated so everybody knows what their duties are.
Or if we even need them.
Or if we need, yeah, absolutely.
Because my question is, do we need 2 and 3?
You know what?
Do we need number 2 and number 3? Exam reviewer and IT
No.
board liaison, do we need either of those?
No.
Okay.
No, the exam reviewer, we don't do exams anymore. We statutorily have to. In certain instances, it's something that doesn't come up, and we don't anticipate we'll ever have to do another exam. But the purpose of the exam reviewer was if somebody failed their exam, we recorded all of our exams. And if somebody failed it, and they could challenge that and say, I don't think I failed it, I think I did fine. And the particular board member would review the video and make sure that the score that the people that scored the exam, you know, that they agreed with that score, and then they could say yea or nay.
And then I have a question. Can 8 or 9 be the same person? You just roll one into the other? Board audit liaison?
Yeah, we can.
I mean,
So the difference is the financial expenditure review is in bylaw.
Okay.
And the other one is not, but we can certainly just say that that's the same. You can certainly say that's the same person.
not that I want more work, but I mean,
Yeah.
it makes sense.
Absolutely.
It's still budget stuff, so.
Yep.
Okay.
What's the task force liaison?
So the board has the ability to, have a committee, a task force, basically. And I can't think of, I think only one time have we ever done it. Twice, okay. It's for a particular issue. It's basically making a committee to address an issue that doesn't fall under any of the other committees.
Mhm.
So, what was the example?
Eva, when with the
Yeah.
yes, the exam.
Yeah, when we implemented the ELAP, they had a task force to review that, and
Practical exam.
yeah, and the practical exam, when they did away with the practical exam, we had a task force to be able to review the feasibility of that. And so it's a particular committee that's built for a particular issue.
So one issue.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So at this point, you just want us to volunteer to do it?
Yeah, if anyone wants to volunteer for any of these, I think that'd be the best way to do it. If people don't volunteer, then
They get volunteered?
yeah, I think we have to fill these positions. It's
Congratulations, you
it's part of what we do. I mean, I guess if they're not filled, then they can be filled when we need them. So let me give an example, like, I guess the committees need to be filled. They all need to be filled, sorry.
Okay, so 8 and 9 is off the board, because that one's for vice chair, and we just determined that 8 falls under that. And then 2 and 3 is off the board, so we only need,
The rest.
So if you're a committee liaison, do you have to attend those committees in person?
No,
You can attend remotely?
come in remotely, and most of the board members that have attended those do it remotely. I don't, only a few times have the actual board member, because you don't do anything except listen. And the committee sometimes will ask questions. So let's say it's a rules committee, and they have direction from the board, a written direction saying, we'd like you to fix this rule. The committee might go, hey, we need some clarification on what you're trying to get here, you know, can you give us some direction? And that the liaison does that, but 90% of the time, it's just listening. It's a non-voting,
Consulting fee.
Yeah.
Consulting.
Yeah, it's just taking notes and making the board aware of what the committee's doing, what kind of progress they're making.
I think I would be fairly knowledgeable in either the CEUs or scope. Because I read out these Facebook things all the time on the CEUs.
Mhm.
Can I actually, is it possible if we look at we do the committees first?
Okay.
Because they're gonna be the bigger ones.
Sure.
And I wanna make sure we have that, and because if you're doing a committee, then you might not wanna do something. If we can get those down, I feel like that would be
Major milestone.
yeah.
So number
So
four,
you know what
number
your
seven.
workload is.
And number
six.
six.
We've got rules,
6, 7, 4.
school, and education. And scope.
I mean,
Course.
I would love to do schools and education.
The schools liaison.
The schools liaison and the education committee board liaison.
You can reach out to myself and Christian on that. We had no points of contact on the school.
So the school liaison has traditionally been, attending the all schools meeting because, and then coming back to the board. And it's once a year, we have an all schools meeting, attending that meeting and then coming back to the board and letting the board know what's going on with the schools. Because not all board members can attend and we don't want them all to attend, so we don't have a quorum. So you can come back and say, hey, we had a meeting and this is what happened. And we've traditionally been doing that because we don't have a liaison. But if we get a liaison, that individual will attend that 1 year meeting. And that's really the only thing that school liaison has done. With the exception of, if we have it listed, a school may call you about something, but most of the time it's just attending that meeting and keeping the board up to date with what's going on.
My hesitance is that I'm not sure I'm going to be able to serve out my full term. So I would hate to take something on and then just have to be like, here, it's yours again. So that's.
I think that's fine though, because somebody will replace you
Yeah.
and that individual.
Has no choice.
Yeah, we'll just give it to them. You took the job.
Yeah.
You're a liaison.
Okay. I mean, I'm working in a school now. I'm comfortable with the education aspect. I would love that.
So I think what we'll do is, let me ask, Angie, is there a vote? Do we have to vote on this? Okay, so I think assign all the committees and then when they're all done, then vote. That's what I think you should do. Right? Does that work, Andy? Okay.
An up or down vote.
Yeah, just say accept the assignments as discussed.
Okay, so then we've got, the rules committee. Would be game to deal with.
Can we define what they are?
The OAR.
Yeah, you have the committee.
Your administrative rules that basically govern everything the LMTs do.
Yeah, so the rules committee, the board, and it's gonna get some work because we're gonna go through our rules pretty quick here and with a fine tooth comb. And so what the board does is that the board says, we want the rules committee to review these rules. So your job would be to attend those rules committee meetings.
Yep.
And just keeping the board informed. You don't have to, participate outside of being there and answering any questions they might have regarding what the intent of the board is. You just have to do that and then come back and tell the board what kind of progress they're making. The committee chair also does a report, a written report. Once the committee start, our committee chair, which is one of the committee members, will write a written report for every single board meeting saying these are the things that we've done in the committee. So your job is to work with that chair about making sure the board's informed. You're just a liaison, so they have somebody to ask questions to.
So I think like an example would be, if you were sitting in there, you'd say, oh, the board's intention of this is the language is ambiguous.
Yeah.
So we're trying to just clarify the language. Not.
Yeah, because you attend the board meeting, you provide the direction as a board. The committee is not in the board meeting, they just get a letter saying, this is what we want you to do. And sometimes, as we write, it's not clear. They might, or it might be, like you said, ambiguous. So it might be just, they might go, well, what is your intent here? And they might ask you, you were in the meeting, what does the board want me to do? What do they want our committee to do? And you'll say, well, the intent is for this. So. Yeah, so our committee, you asked the rules. At the direction of the board, assist the board with preparing the statement of need and physical impact statement when there are rule changes, and review rules and statutes for consistency of language and content. That's the Rules Committee.
Still interested, Melissa?
I just wanted them to find
Okay.
what these were.
Yeah, I'll define them all then. So the Education Committee, at the direction of the board, evaluate and review educational requirements of OMBT certified classes or programs to ensure minimum competencies for licensees regulated by the OMBT. And then the Scope of Practice Committee, at the direction of the board, evaluate new and current practice modalities and how they relate to the practice of massage.
I'd probably be more interested in that one.
Scope of practice.
Yeah.
Now, the work that we do have coming up for scope of practice is literally to clarify the scope of practice that we do have now in statute. Bring the language to today's lingo. So that's gonna be the biggest assignment that the board will be assigning.
Yep.
That's the biggest one. I thought, well, everyone's looking at me.
Yeah.
So are you interested in that?
Or do you still want the rest explained?
Well, I just thought you said we go through them, do the this first and then the other ones.
This is the committee. That's the committee. Scope of practice committee.
I think that's the last one. Yeah.
The last committee.
Yeah, Rules Committee, Scope of Practice,
In education.
and Education.
And Ray took 5 and 6, so now scope and practice is left.
Already?
Ray's on 6 also? Education? Okay.
Education Committee Board and
Wonderful.
Schools Liaison.
And unless Carol wants a rules committee, you want rules committee, Carol? If not, I'll take it.
I've spent many, many years on that rules committee, probably
Yeah.
10.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, my concern is my availability on what sometimes could be relatively short notice. But if you want it, Maria, I mean, you can have it. And if nobody else wants it, I'll take it.
Okay. I'll do,
Maria's vice chair.
I can do Scope of Practice too, if nobody else wants that one desperately. Do you want rules?
It's yours, Becky.
I didn't say I wanted it, but I'll take it.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying, yeah. Okay.
Voluntold.
Yeah.
Okay, so
So the only one left is CEU person,
You
right?
know, I said I would like to do that one.
Okay, wonderful.
But do you want me to help at the scope also, or?
I'm not, it's,
Your rules committee.
Yes.
How many people have to do each one? Just one? What is this committee? That makes me think of.
You're not gonna be
we're not on the-
committee, you're
Oh.
liaison committee.
Liaison.
Yeah, so the CEO person will be like reaching out.
Got you.
And
also
ask about
to
specific
keep
goals.
the committee on task.
I thought we're trying to do a committee.
All right, next one.
Yeah, no, the CEU person is just,
So do you want to do this, the CEU person?
Unless someone else has a burning desire.
so it's gonna be maybe
I
twice a
think you
year.
volunteered.
You're gonna get an email from me saying, this person's not happy that they're
I
CEU.
feel like I have a lot of knowledge because I read all their stuff on Facebook multiple times a day. I start to comment, but then I think I'm a
That's the
board
one,
member,
yeah.
so maybe I should just keep my mouth
CEU
shut.
person.
So I end up deleting my whole thing. It's not the right answer.
That's it?
That's your best bet.
Good.
I think that's it.
Okay, so we've got CE person, Melissa, 2 and 3, we're not filling. Rules, Maria. Schools,
Right.
Ray. Education's Ray. Scope, Beckett. Board audit liaison, Maria.
Or vice chair.
Or we'll write that in as vice
I
chair.
think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Financial expenditure review, vice chair. FSMPB delegate and legislative contact, board chair. And search committee, that's written into our
Yeah, bylaws, yep.
bylaws. Member recruitment, executive director, and task force, that only needs to be filled if it comes up.
Correct, yeah.
Okay. So if we're all comfortable with that, could we get a motion to accept that?
I will move to accept the committee assignments
Board
as
assignments.
discussed.
Board assignments.
The board assignments as discussed.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Board assignments are accepted.
And I have to add, obviously I've been really quiet during this time because I have very little, if not any, massage therapy education. If anybody obviously backs out of anything, I can be a backup. I'm just gonna need a little guidance.
Thank
help
you.
me out with that.
Scott, it's taken me
Years to jump in and out. Okay, thank you. So then the next point of business is gonna be our self-assessment.
Yeah, so, every 2 years, I go through, I get audited, the board gets audited. Part of that audit, is, it deals with everything we do, processes, everything, finances. And then that audit gets submitted to the governor's office and the legislators with a SEBA report. We're a semi-independent board, and every 2 years I have to do a SEBA report. In the SEBA report, this is directly from the governor's office, they added this board member self-assessment. It is a form that basically it looks like it's a yes or no or answer whether the board itself, if you're assessing yourself, whether you're maintaining these goals that are listed by the governor for what the governor wants the board to accomplish. So I'm required to have the board assess itself. And what I'm going to do is, what I've done in the past, well, this is kind of new, so they had a different way of doing it. What I'm gonna do now is that our SEBA report's due in 2 years from now. So I would like you guys to fill out this form and submit it to me after this meeting or during this meeting. And then the next meeting next year, the business meeting again. And that way, when I submit it, I can see that we've improved in areas that maybe board members thought we're not doing well in, or that we've been good across the board, or maybe the second one shows that we've slacked off, based on your own opinion about how you're doing. So it's a requirement for the SEBA report, and I thought that I would just do it twice instead of right before the SEBA report, and that way we can track if we have some issues we need to deal with. Make sense?
This is the right one, right?
Yep.
That's right.
Okay.
That's the right one.
Yep, everybody have a copy.
Yep.
And it's in your
So-
folders.
Yeah, you can submit it here, or you can take it home, email it to me, think about it. I just want you to know that it's gonna come up again the next business meeting that we have. So,
That's a good idea.
Is this in our documents right now?
correct,
Okay.
yes. Any questions about that?
I don't have a copy of it.
I know,
It's not in your packet, the online packet?
online.
Oh, online, yeah. I'm sorry, I thought you meant that was on the other.
Did you put it in there?
No,
Everybody's
yeah, I put them in this. Because I thought we know one.
You guys have it? I got an extra one.
Oh, no, maybe I do have it. Maybe we just stuck together.
Looks like that.
Yep, no, I got it. Sorry.
You want it, Scott? George?
If you get an extra, yes. Thank you.
Oh, okay. no
Just
problem.
stuck to the back page.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, wonderful, thank you. Let's go ahead and move on to the affirmative action plan.
Yeah, so the affirmative action plan is a plan that Governor Kotek, well, actually it started with our previous governor. Governor Kotek, our affirmative action plan used to be our affirmative action plan and our DEI plan. They are two different things. So it was combined, we kind of put them together. And then the governor's office, the new governor said, I want to break them apart. I want you to do affirmative action plan, and then I want you to include your DEI in what we're going to review tomorrow.
Action plan.
No, in your, the board action plan. I want you to put your DEI plan into your board action plan. So we did that last year, in Hood River. The board, put their DEI plan into their, board action plan. So we just have this affirmative action plan. So I had to redo it a little bit and, make it just an affirmative action plan. I used the template that was provided to me by the, DEI committee that the governor formed. I attended many meetings to make sure we were on track with what we needed. And it was already submitted because it's due, but I submitted it early because I wanted feedback from the DEI committee. And your feedback also. So they're going to give me some feedback, and then once you guys, if you have any feedback from you guys, I'll add that and then we'll submit it. So I'm asking you to approve our affirmative action plan for the year. And it'll be a yearly thing, much like the other plan you guys approved, the COOP plan.
I move to approve the affirmative action plan.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
All right,
Okay, and on to fee assessment.
here we go. So I'm gonna read this to you, and then I'm gonna talk a little bit about it, and I'll add some things to it. And I talked about some of our shortfalls and how much of our reserves that were taken. It was over $200,000 of our reserves. We used to maintain about $400,000 to $500,000 in reserves. Seems like a lot of money, but that's really 4 months of working capital. And you can see by the pandemic, which lasted a long time, and it's kind of making a resurgence from what I understand that COVID is that it took a lot of our money. It took half of the reserves. When you start getting low like that, you don't have any ability to take a hit like that. And we have to have that ability as a board. It's smart financial management. So the board is funded solely by the funds received from license applications, our renewal fees, our facility permits, our civil penalties, the sale of our license list, our verifications, and our late fees. So our fees were last increased on January 1st, 2019, which this January will be 6 years. Prior to that, the previous increase was July of 2011. Except in 16, we had a $5 pass-through fee for the Health Assessment Authority survey. So from 2011, so it's been 13 years, we've had one fee increase in 13 years. And that was in 2019. So the board operated on a deficit budget the last biennium. This was a result of our reduced revenues due to COVID, as well as increased costs, including higher than anticipated personal services. We talked about that earlier, that there was sort of an unprecedented pay increase. The unions negotiated this pay increase because at that time, inflation was through the roof. Everybody was struggling, and the pay was not, for state government to attract good people, we have to be competitive with the civilian market. And so the state agreed that these employees needed that pay increase, so it ended up being a pretty substantial pay increase. There was also a one-time stipend to help because inflation was high, and it was right at the end of COVID, beginning of the recovery. They gave every employee a one-time, I think it was $1,500 bump just to help them with immediate costs, groceries, gas, things like that. So our personal services surpassed our budgeted amount by 14%, which is about what the pay increase was, including everything. So I didn't budget for that, and we went over budget. Also, due to COVID and the requirements to move our entire operation to a virtual operation, our last biennium, including our board meetings, our anticipated computer expenses surpassed our budget amount by 70% last biennium. Our reduced revenues included our anticipated initial licensures. Our application and late fees was only funded about 50% of what it would have been had COVID not hit. That's a substantial amount of money for this board. in the scheme of things, like ODOT and those people that have, $50 million budgets, and plus they can go back to the legislators and say, can you increase my money? Can you give me more money? And the legislators can approve that money and give them more money. We don't have the ability to do that. What we have is what we have. We also had prior to the 21-23 biennium, we had substantial growth. Our license base had been increasing significantly, but COVID hit, and our increase has only been about 1% over last year. It's projected to be about 1% this biennium also. Our growth in licensures, it was about, I think it was 16% previous to COVID. So it went way down, our growth, which means we're just what we get, right? We're not going to increase, our money's not going to get increased. It's going to be what it is. The current biennium with the proposed budget rebalance should be a balanced budget. However, due to the deficit budget last biennium and the depletion of half of our reserves, we could not sustain another COVID-like situation with our current reserves. We would be essentially bankrupt. We would have no money. We have maintained approximately 2 months of working capital. However, our target should be 4 months. Prior to COVID, we maintained 4 to 5 months of working capital. Pre-pandemic, we were up to 6 months of working capital, which is getting to the point at that time that we shouldn't be any higher than that. So I'm talking about a fee increase, and I'm going to discuss, before I talk about a fee increase, I'm going to tell you that what have we done to cut spending, right? Because I think that's important. It's okay for me to come up here and say, hey, we need more money, but I think the response from anybody would be, well, what have you done to cut our spending right now? Because there's places you can cut, right? So our savings in the 21-23 biennium are listed on this. We reduced our travel by $33,000 on that biennium. Our professional development, which is sending our people to training to keep them up to date with new trends, we saved about $9,300. We went to a virtual system of sending our licenses, an automated system of sending our licenses and not printing them out. That saved us about $13,000 in postage last biennium. We cut back on our supplies. We cut back on any kind of furniture that needed to be replaced. We bought no new furniture. We saved about $12,000 between both of those. Meals, about $3,500. Meals are directly related to travel. So, and legal fees, we cut by about $22,000. We cut that by trying to settle more cases and negotiating versus sending everything to DOJ and having them negotiate for us. We cut our investigative expenses by $27,000 last biennium. We still had a deficit budget, but we cut our spending by $120,000 last biennium. So the first year of this biennium, we've saved on security by about $700. That's our alarm system and things like that. We saved an additional $9,000 in postage. The state got a better deal on their postage. So we have to use these new forms that we submit our mail to the state, and the state mails it out for us. But by doing that, we saved about $9,000 the first year of this biennium. $2,000 already this biennium. So the first year we've saved $2,000 or $3,000 in combined office supplies and furniture. Furniture is things like, what furniture is, but in an office environment, we have chairs that break all the time, right? Things break down and we got to replace them. And so we've been kind of taping things together, trying to save money that way and not purchasing it unless it really needed to be purchased. Our investigator, Mitch, is our compliance specialist. Jeff's been training him to go out and handle more cases. Our previous compliance specialist didn't do many cases in the field. So already this year, we've saved about $20,000 in investigative expenses just by doing anything we can do in-house. And our personal services, because we reduced one limited duration position, Christian, who moved into Mitch's old position, was a limited duration that we have been using to help us with a lot of backlog on things. We cut that position out and we've saved about $30,000 so far this year. So savings this year already is about almost $65,000. And we're on track to, again, save about $120,000 by reducing our costs this biennium. And even with those reductions, we're looking at either a balanced budget or slight budget deficit of maybe a few $1,000s. So our cost saving efforts over the last 4 years, like I said, we did a reduction of one limited duration employee. We moved to a smaller office. So the office that we're in now over the past 4 years, the office that we're in now is about half the size of our old office. We don't pay the electricity that we had to pay. The other office was two buildings, basically. There were two addresses that we had put together. And so we had to pay, utilities on both sides of that. We don't pay for janitorial anymore. And I looked at it, and the moving to this smaller office saved us just a tiny bit of money. But in the long run, I think that money's going to add up. I think it was like $900 a month, which over 2 years is not tiny, but it's tiny in the scheme of things. But we have to have an office, and it saved us to move there. We had our own IT person instead of using DAS or the state IT. We had to move because our infrastructure was dying. It wouldn't be long until our whole IT system failed. And that was going to be tens of thousands of dollars to replace that system. So we had to move to DAS IT. Our initial costs to move were big. I'm thinking it was about 15,000, and then add maybe another 18, probably 20 grand to move to DAS IT. But now that we're in there, we're saving, about 2,000 a month going to DAS IT than using our own IT provider. And the nice thing is that the infrastructure, these laptops and things that need to be replaced, when they need to be replaced, we don't have to buy them. DAS IT just replaces them as part of our contract. So it's going to save us a lot of money that way.
And part of that $20,000 was for some of the new.
It was, because our stuff was so old, they couldn't accept it. Because you can normally trade it in, and they'll give you their systems, and they'll use those. But our stuff was so old that the trade-in, they're like, okay, we'll give you, $800 or whatever. And so we had to buy that stuff outright. But it's forever now. It's going to be replaced every time it needs to be replaced. We went to a paperless licensing renewal system, and I explained that. We saved quite a bit of money over the last 4 years. We've been working on more in-house investigations versus using our contractors. And we've been negotiating a lot of civil penalty settlements versus going to hearing. The board, you guys thankfully give us the ability to negotiate these civil penalties down in certain instances, or at least negotiate some of the civil penalties, like I said, in certain situations. But it's really been helpful because we don't have to send them to DOJ and have our DOJ attorney, who should be doing our hearings and giving us legal advice and things like that, negotiating a settlement on a case where we could do it ourselves, make a phone call. So we've saved quite a bit of money that way.
Bob, can I
Yeah.
interrupt? So for those that don't know, when Bob was talking previously on the first page about the late fee revenue and it was only funded 50%.
Yeah.
During COVID, we forgave late fees.
Yeah.
So we weren't collecting late fees during that time.
Yep.
And that's why it's such a big thing, and I don't think a lot of people know that.
Yeah, it was 2 years, so the board did it for a year. You guys waived the late fees. And the idea behind it was it gave people an extra 30 days without a penalty to be able to get licensed. What it did for us, though, was it made more work because people could license themselves at the last minute versus having to do it, 30 days previous. And they all came in at once, so it put a big burden on us, and it also put a financial burden. And then the board, instead of saying we're going to reinstitute it next month, decided they were going to give another 12-month grace period. So it's a 2-year, over 2 biennium that it actually impacted our budget.
But it was definitely a way to help out all the COVID.
It was the only way we could do it.
It was.
It was the right thing to do, and it was the only thing we could do.
But it was the right.
To help
Also,
out,
another
yeah.
big savings on the, when you talk about the new licensure electronic being emailed out, is the cost of the actual paper stock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those things are almost $1.50 per page.
Yep.
Then you add an envelope on there, you're looking at $2 per person
Postage, yeah.
for everyone you send out plus postage on top of that. So,
We say,
I mean, that's $16,000 in a biennium just in the licensed paper, you know?
On top of that,
On
there's a
top
lot
of
of man hours that are saved that
A
you
lot
can
of
spend
stuffing
working on
envelopes.
something else instead of stuffing envelopes.
so any questions so far? No? Okay. So the board has maintained consistent licensing fees since January 1 of 2019. And has also controlled and reduced operational costs to enhance its appeal to professionals from out of state, as well as keeping our costs down for our licensees. However, with the impact of inflation, escalating personal services expenses, which is our payroll, and higher charges from state government services, the existing fees no longer cover our expenses. Consequently, the board is projected to have an ending fund balance below the 4-month target. So our ending fund balance is our reserves, right? And we have a 4-month target for that. And I anticipate we'll still be 2 months. And depending on what happens, there's another year, right? If something happens that causes us, we could have less than that. As a result, I'm going to give you some options. Option 1 is to raise fees to offset lower than forecasted revenue and higher than forecasted expenses. Moving forward, our costs will only increase due to increases in costs nationwide and statewide. Our personal services costs will include a 12.5% cost of living increase, a COLA over the next year. Our state assessments, which include services such as payroll expenses, computer expenses, insurance, HR expenses, have all increased over the last 5 years, and specifically over the last biennium. Legal services, including administrative hearing expenses, have increased. Recent review of other state boards found that many of our boards have had to increase their fees for the same reason, including inflation, increased personal services, and I have a list of them here. Just the ones I could find by doing a quick search. The chiropractic board, they did a 20% across the board fee increase on the 23-25 biennium, but they're proposing a 45% additional increase for this next biennium. The esthetician board did a 40% increase on January 1, 2022. Vet Med did 50%. Naturopathic board did a 15 to 40% depending on what fee it was. The cosmetology board did a 30-40% increase. Occupational therapy licensing board 25%. The medical board just increased 25%. And I was talking with the medical board, and they're probably potentially doing another fee increase. Our option that I'm proposing will include an approximate 20% fee increase, not on all of our fees. If you look at the attached information, you will see the fees that I would like the board to consider increasing. I'm not proposing increasing late fees. Our credentialing review, I'm not proposing increasing that. Our facility permit reprinting, stuff like that. The only one that's above 20% is going to be our verification. Our verification was $10. Doing a verification for someone moving out of state or getting licensed out of state it takes a lot of time from our staff. They have to find the information, they have to fill out a form, they have to fax it off or send it off. We're not breaking even with that. It's taken a lot of staff time, so I increased it from $10 to $25. That's fairly consistent with other places for doing the same kind of work.
What percentage is?
Yeah, a lot of places. What's that?
What is, I'm not good at my math. What percentage increase is that?
That one would be
TSPC doesn't charge for that.
250.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. I'll tell you.
And in general, this is a 25% increase, not 20. 200 to 250 is a 25% increase.
Yes. Yeah, so if you take all of these and you go through these and you add them all up and you do the percentage increase, I'm going a 20% increase across the board. So like I said, when I was telling you, some of these are a little bit more, a little bit less, but it's an average of a 20% increase across the board.
Okay. Well,
yeah.
If I can ask you a couple of clarifying questions.
Yeah.
When you came up with this option, does this option fee increase include continuing the reduced spending by 120K
Absolutely.
each year?
Absolutely.
because there's some of those things I don't think we should continue to save on. We haven't trained anybody except for Rowena in 5 years. And I don't think we want to skip on those. That's just my.
Oh, no, I get what you're saying. So the cost cutting that we're doing right now, it's not all of them are going to continue to be scrimpy, you know what I'm saying?
That's what I was
So
getting at, 'cause
if you look at my budget,
20,000
if you go back to my budget rebalance, you'll see that things like travel, which is related to training, and our training budget, I didn't cut. I think I increased a couple of those to make sure that, because, you know, right now, we're in a training deficit with our staff. And if you don't provide the training for our staff to get their own continuing education, they're not keeping up with the latest trends and the things that are going on. They can't bring that back and share it with everybody. And we're in a deficit because we really haven't had any training for 4 years, at least 2 biennium, maybe even a little bit longer than that. So I want to keep that at least where it's at, or maybe even increase a little bit.
So that was all factored in?
That was all factored in.
Okay, that's just what I wanted to double check. I don't get to vote or even have a word on this, but if that was not the case, I would think perhaps a higher increase might be necessary to make sure we can do that business and have the surplus of 3-4 months that the board should have. In addition to that, I'd bring up something that caught my ear that I missed when you and I were talking about this several days ago. These boards that are going back to the trough just after 2 years after getting an increase, I think you should seriously consider whether or not 20% is enough, because I don't want to come back until another 6 or 10 years from now. And I'd rather get 25% now when the need is justified, and in my opinion, it's very much justified. The reasons for our deficit are very much explainable and uncontrollable. It wasn't by bad management that this happened, it was just bad circumstances. And the fact that we have basically saved close to $140,000 to $160,000 in expenses by skimping and scrimping, I would just consider that maybe 25% is better and make sure we can go out 6 to 10 years before we have to go back to the draw. But I'm just saying that as someone who pays their own fees for their license.
So go ahead.
Oh, I'm also have a Washington license, and I have to say that even with that the fee increase for the biennial renewal, we renew annually in Washington. It's still less than what our neighbor to the north is charging. I think I just paid $166 for a 1-year renewal in Washington. So at 20% or 25%, we're still kind of in the basement on this, and the demographics in this state are certainly similar.
I can also speak to Nevada. Their biennial is 300. So.
Yeah, I was wondering, I think these are good points that by coming in at the lowest increase, I think, yeah, we're just gonna punt it a little bit. And I feel like people are gonna be mad no matter what. I'd rather take the hit once and a little higher percentage with a little more buffer, I feel like.
Especially with 13 years since the last real.
It's been 6. The last real increase was 6, but over 13 years, we only had 1 increase.
So I think that you've done a very good job of not only cutting where you could, but explaining to us all of the budget. I made some notes, and one of them was compared to other states comparable to Oregon. Obviously, we're not going to compare to California or New York, but like what Carol said, how do those fees compare to other states?
Very, very. Yeah.
And then the other thing was when you mentioned 20%, that was my first thought was that's going to be satisfactory for now, but projected for the future. So we're not talking about this next time this comes up. So I definitely think that more than 20% is definitely acceptable. Rather be 25 or 35, whatever it is.
So I'm going to answer one of your questions here. The comparing to other states. So I spent a week going to every state's website and talking with other states about what their fees are and things like that. The problem is, comparing us to other states, is that no other state, there are other states that use their licensing fees, but they're a conglomerate, so there's 100 boards under this whole licensing umbrella, and everybody gets a share of the money. So it's really hard to compare us to that because, they submit their budget and say, we need this much money, and they give it to them. They just divide it up equally among everybody, depending on how many licenses they have. The other problem is these other states either have way less licensees than we do, so it's hard to compare their budget to ours, or they have a ton more licensees. The only states that actually have licensees about the same as us are southern states, which the cost of living is hugely down in those southern states. So it's hard to compare, consequently, their licensing fees aren't as high as ours. But their cost of living is way lower than ours, So I did a lot of time trying to go through each state and kind of figure it out. Then I had to look and see how they were funded. And the majority of them were funded either, they got their own licensing fees, but then they also got a chunk of these other fees that they got. So I also get the fact that maybe, increasing even more. I think that this particular increase will sustain us another 5 or 6 years. A couple of biennium. If you want to go longer than that, we certainly can. So this will give us about $345,000 of revenue.
At 20%.
Yeah, it'll give us about $345,000 of revenue. That's an estimate, right? Because I don't know if we're gonna have more licensees coming up or that kind of stuff. I just kind of added it all up. By the way, that increase for verifications is 150% increase. That's the only one that's, yeah.
I have two concerns about the keeping it low at 20%, and one is about that rent at 3% increase a year.
Yep.
Like, that isn't gonna go away at all, but when your lease is up, they can give you the base rate. And I know I've been priced out of 2 offices that way, so I worry that the buffer in that
absolutely
needs to be bigger, just in the reality of the market. And I also don't think, based on some of the restructuring we've heard from the schools, that we're gonna be putting out nearly the graduates that we did.
Agreed.
So I feel like there's not a lot we can do about that. And I feel like those are more concerning than maybe this buffer.
Absolutely.
I feel like I could support maybe a 25 to 30%.
I'd like to add a little more thing Maria and I were just mentioning is, but one of the big cuts that we made is not filling that limited duration position that Christian was in before he promoted up to full-time permanent. That position was extremely valuable. And what everybody's doing now is taking on more work to get the same amount done. Or things that he used to do in that capacity just don't get done anymore. They're not critical things, but they just don't get done anymore. I think I would like the board and the director to consider not just balancing the budget and having an adequate reserve, but I think we need to grow in staffing. I think I've always, since the beginning, was an advocate to make that a permanent position, and then circumstances developed that was just not going to be a reality, and we needed to cut that position. But it is one that I would lobby to restore critically, a support staff person to support compliance. I mean, one of the things you may have read in that article is we realistically staffed the entire compliance department with 1.5 FTEs, plus our contractors, which, it's hard to factor in how much FTE value they are. But I can tell you, Mitch and I'm the 0.5, because of my other 0.5 licensure, and Mitch and I are struggling to keep all the balls in.
And you literally have boxes that are archived that we haven't even done.
We have an unrealized backlog that we need to address. And so I would look, if we're going to talk about what percentages that we consider, that it's not only about these goals, but maybe we could think a goal of the future of maybe even adding a position down the road of a low-level assistant type position to help with phones and things like that, to free everybody else to do the work.
I like that idea because if that person can take some of the uh, kind of more mundane tasks off of your back, Jeff, and Mitch's back, in theory, we'd have a little bit more firepower with investigations, which of course is a revenue builder, right? A generator, rather. Yeah.
And one of the key things, the way the office runs, is the phones are ringing off the hook some days. And most of it, you could probably plot it out, it's around renewal times, you know, the end of the renewal time and the panic and the beginning when the rush. And the phones are ringing off the hook and emails are coming in fast and furious. There's times when Christian, who has a full-time job of processing initial applications and getting them licensed, I don't think he even works on his job for the entire day. He is entirely on the phone. And Rowena is entirely on the phone, and there are times when Mitch is third on the phone, and he's entirely on the phone. And then, God help us, there's times when I'm on the phones. And I end up creating more problems. And Director Rourke's been on the phones.
Yeah.
And you don't want that. You really don't want that.
And I take from home.
So-
And Kaite gets the fallouts at the end of all that. She still gets phone calls.
Yep.
So we're working too lean to be efficient.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We are not efficient.
So-
We're efficient for the crew that we have. I will stand by it. We are efficient. It's a masterpiece, actually. But could we be more efficient? Absolutely.
But
not with what we
one
have.
accident, one car accident, one plane crash, any of that is really gonna disrupt. So Bob, do you know how much that support staff
Yes.
would costed us?
It was.
Not off the top of my head. I mean,
Okay, we could do a 25% plus whatever that would cost us.
So
To replace that.
if my numbers are correct, if it's 30%, so at 20%, I heard you say it turns into about $345,000.
Yeah.
So at 30%, that would turn it into 517.
Okay.
If I'm not mistaken, and
that would fund that.
35% is 603,000.
Is that a biennium?
Go,
or a-
Scott.
Okay. So that's a 2-year deal.
That's a 2-year, yeah.
Mhm.
Correct.
Just want to make sure it wasn't an annual one. We're gonna.
No.
And I was like, oh, well, maybe we.
No,
can-
that's across the biennium itself.
Thanks, Scott, for those numbers.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thanks for the math and the fee
So
discussion.
this would be a part-time position, so I presume lower payroll overhead, not much. Is that true?
Yeah, it'll be kind of what the board wants it to be, and we'll have to discuss that a little more. It was a full-time position, but, you know, it's an entry-level position, so it's not necessarily, we're gonna get a skilled person, but it's going to be an entry-level position because they're going to be doing the things that an entry-level person does, answer phones, file, be at the direction of, you know, yeah, doing things like that, mailing stuff, things like that. So it'll be a substantially lower pay grade than any of our other employees. So.
Okay, let's go Melissa, then Ray, and Scott.
I just wondered, how many licensees do we have in Oregon?
Almost 8,000.
Roughly 8,000.
Yeah, that's close, yeah.
And 6 of us to handle the 8,000.
Well, yeah.
Actually, one takes care of all the renewals. 8,000 renewals every 2 years, about 400 a month by himself.
I think an
That's
issue is.
Christian. That's Rowena. That's Rowena.
Okay. So earlier in this fee discussion memo, it does say that personal services reduced 1 LD position, and that saved us 30,000. So
Thus far this year. So it's about 60. Yeah, if it says 30, so it'll be 60 for a biennium. That's a rough estimate. I'd have to actually crunch the numbers, but I got that number off of last year's payroll stuff, just grabbed it. And that's a.
Keep in mind that position may not still cost that because some of our uncontrollables are what HR does for position descriptions, which I totally agree with. We need to be competitive with the private sector. But we don't control when they bump those and do equity surveys and then adjust wages and things.
Yeah,
We have no control over that. So my guess is that position probably costs a little bit more than that now. And when you're make it full-time permanent rather than limited duration, it also comes with more benefits, and so that costs a little extra.
Yeah.
So it's not gonna be identical.
I do have 2 other points. One, the Nevada fee is $300 right now, but that includes a printed plastic ID with a photo.
Ooh.
A Nevada license is a blue card, so that's where some of that cost is coming in. And I just don't want to overlook the cost to LMTs of paying for CEUs. Because that
We can manage the CEUs are pretty, you can get away with doing most of it for free. 8 hours you
Yes.
gotta come up with.
And I mean,
And
I know
in 2
there's a
years.
website that you
So-
can get your 24 for $99, but
You could do
There's not
17 of the
great
25 for free.
CEUs.
A self-study. So we've kind of reduced that as far as.
CEUs, you can spend all you want or very little. It doesn't, quality is not attached to cost necessarily, and it feels like that has to be a different discussion.
That's fair, I just don't wanna I don't want any increase to be prohibitive to
Agree.
the therapist, because.
Well, I don't think we're talking about putting the whole, like, if we increase the percentage, it wouldn't all be on licensure alone.
No.
Like that, it would be distributed, so.
Right, I understand.
Yeah.
I hear Ray, that's a different discussion, a big concern when you talk among the people of what the thing is. Yeah.
I know that, for example, my coworkers at the last spa were already constantly complaining about the cost of renewal at $200. And so I'm worried that we might lose licensees.
I know I'm not an LMT.
Let them go anywhere else and find out just how much.
Or any other profession. I mean, they're healthcare professionals and they can't do $100 a month, a year. That's honestly, it's ridiculous.
Did you say you had two things though?
That was the second one.
Okay.
The first one was that the Nevada $300 includes that nice fancy card. And the second one was, I don't want any increase we do to be prohibitive, and forget about the fact that therapists under renewal do have to pay for continuing education as part of the renewal. Like, it's not budgeted here, it has to come from the LMT's budget.
Got it.
So the 35%, now let's talk about, the majority of our revenue are going to be in renewals, right? Because that's the majority of that's just the majority of our revenue. A renewal is currently 200. 270 would be a 35% increase. And so that equates to $35 a year. So it'll be a $35 a year. You don't pay every year, but if you look at it, it's $35 extra a year that they would have to come up with to renew if we did a 35% increase.
That's a 15-minute massage.
I have two things. So my much better half is the head of general services in Polk County. And what she has, and I don't know if it's possible with the state, because the state does all sorts of crazy things, but she has a 3/4 time staff that comes with 3/4 benefits. And then she also has, she calls it a student worker, but it could be anybody, but it's a part-time person that works from 1 to 4 that does the basic things, answer phones, photocopies, So I don't know if that's even possible or something to consider, but I am pushing, and I am a huge penny pincher, but I'm pushing for a higher percentage because I would like to see OBMT plan for another position, but also what if there's another COVID or another whatever, then there's going to be that money in the budget that's building up for that unknown 911, whatever it is, that OBMT will have. So I would like to see 30 or 35%.
And to piggyback on that, I was going to bring this up, which now it does cost money to make organs like Nevada's. Pictures.
I mean, it's.
Pictures on the
Can you
license.
show us?
What does that help? What does that do though? I mean,
It makes me feel good there.
I mean, we hear a lot of, on the other side of, we pay all this, our classes are $800 and $1,500 that we have to
You
do,
don't have to
plus the
spend
others,
that.
and then we
Yeah.
don't even get our certificate for the
Right.
job.
Right.
This is what I hear over and over and over.
You give me 35% increase and I'll start printing those damn things.
Exactly.
I don't want to get too far away from where we have to go with this.
Right.
But I think we also have to always remember that we're not in the, we aren't here to help massage therapists have lucrative businesses. We're here for, to serve the public. And so we have to keep that mission and our scope is the number one thing we do, regardless of what people say on Facebook or what, we have to really think about how we run lean and how we're effective in the mission of the board, protecting public safety. And if that means that we have enough investigators and they have computers they need and they have air conditioning, and all these things to just run it
Come to a
off.
board meeting once if they want to complain about it and see a discussion like this.
Yeah.
And reason and understand why. If they saw this discussion we had right now, they'd quit complaining.
Yeah.
They'd understand.
Agreed.
But they don't see this happen.
I think we have a great opportunity to educate our licensees who I believe it's inevitable. They're going to be paying more for their renewals for sure. And I think that people are generally, and when I say people, I mean our licensees in this case, are probably for the most part unaware that our board must be self-supporting and unaware that that's not true for the majority of other boards. And so we're going to have an educational task in front of us to make sure people do understand about why we have to increase fees and where that money goes. I think it's important to talk about investigations. I think especially with these the illicit massage businesses, those not only make our profession look bad, right? But they also create safety hazards for practitioners, for massage therapists, particularly those who work solo. And I just think that putting the energy toward investigations is in everybody's best interest. And frankly, I'm proud that people answer the phone in our board office. I have spent time on hold, beating my head against the wall, trying to get a hold of boards for other reasons. And it's a really huge problem among licensing boards that we can't get a hold of people on the phone and they don't answer our emails, et cetera, and our board does, and I'm really glad about that. Okay, I'll stop talking.
Thank you, Carol. Great point.
Yes, I think our late renewal fee is absurdly low.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
I was
gonna have a coronary. Nevada's is $25 a month with no cap. I just spent an extra $375 to renew my license recently because I had let it lapse because I'm.
Because you didn't think you were going back.
Yeah, I didn't think I was going back, and so I let it lapse and didn't do the license suspension or inactive status like I should have.
Mm-hmm.
And now to renew, I got hit with the $375 fee, and that was me. It was on me, and I knew that, and I paid it.
Yeah. We laughed a little bit there because it's probably our biggest complaint point.
It is.
But those people that allow themselves to be
Yeah.
late are also those that complain. Sometimes it's just combined personality trait.
Same teacher.
As I'm wondering, if you raise those a little higher, maybe they would be more inclined to get done on time.
Actually, no, we used to charge $250.
We used to charge $250. I was gonna give you that since this time. We used to-
Didn't change anything.
It didn't change anything. We used to charge a lot of money. There was no cap. Then we capped it to 100. I mean, that's been tweaked a lot to try to get compliance.
And nothing works.
And nothing works. So
I mean, we could go back to 250,
Yeah.
We tried
Used to be
the
250, yeah.
100, it's not working.
What is it now?
$250.
the cap's at 100.
It's $25 a week.
Up until your lapse.
Up until you.
Which is 4 weeks, so,
Yeah.
caps.
Maximum 200 days.
So at this point, I think where we are is that we need to maybe look at more funding, to be more aggressive with the fee raise in one shebang. Is this something we need you to go back and like?
I have a recommendation here. So, the only two on there that are not, okay, that are more than what I'm gonna propose are the practical exam fee and the verification fee, on this list of fees. The rest of them are a consistent, percentage. So if you said, raise our fees, raise the fees that's proposed by 35%, let's say for an example, like I said, that would be $70 for renewal, $35 a year more. So raise the proposed fees to, by 35%, with the exception of the practical exam and the verification fees, which are going to be as noted in this. I mean, I think that would be a sufficient motion, Angela. I mean, I guess I could ask you.
Can we put the cap back for late fees at like 2 or 250? Can we put that back on there?
I don't.
Bob's hesitating.
I don't really want to. I mean, I will if you guys want me to. This is a real point of contention, and I think that would be, that
might be. And that's a rule change that would be.
There might be.
All of these are rule changes.
Yeah, but I mean, that's a separate rule change, isn't it? No. That's not part of it.
But
one thing I'd like to add to Bob that I don't think we've talked about yet was the timing.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna go next, if they come to a conclusion about how they want to do it. So.
When are we doing practical examinations?
Hopefully not.
So
that's why we're raising it.
That's why.
So if we have to do a practical examination under certain circumstances, it hasn't happened since we did away with the practical exam.
We've found ways of talking people out of it. We've had several people want to do it.
So we still have the ability to do a practical exam. If we have to do one under these circumstances, we would have to basically bring staff in and hire and build our own practical exam again. Although we have the information, it would be a special circumstance. So because of that, I wanted to raise that fee from the old practical exam fee, and I wanted to raise it to, what did I raise it to?
150 to 350?
Yeah, 150 to 350, because I think that's about what it would cost to do a practical exam. So I didn't think it should cost us anything to have to do a practical exam if somebody wanted to do it. So.
That makes sense. I remember you saying that we had basically done away with
that.
So
and I think it's very.
Line item.
And we would get rid of it altogether, but it's in law.
It's in law.
Statute, yeah, unfortunately.
I'm good with 35%. I understand the need.
Okay, so what do we need to do to bring something forward at this point that is a percentage more in line with our discussion?
Yeah, so I mean, I think Scott had given the numbers, and I've crunched the numbers regarding a 35%. And I think that would definitely bring the revenue up to the point where we can do some of the things that you guys have expressed that we want to do. So at 35%, so it would be increase fees, the fees that increase fees by 35%, except as noted in the document here, the practical exam fee and the verification, and the ones that have no change, something of that nature. So I can come back, but I would like to have these, we got to talk about timing. If we start the fee changes January 1st, that gives us everybody 3 months, right, to do education, get people prepared for it.
The rules, hearings and all that.
Rules, hearings, everything that needs to happen. And it would be January 1st, we would actually get a benefit this biennium, right? Because it'll still be 6 months of the biennium left, so we'll have some revenue in this biennium that we can actually start using and make sure that, our budget's gonna balance for this particular biennium and not be in a deficit budget. If we wait until the next board meeting, then we can't make that deadline. We'd have to push it to July. And it'll be for the next biennium, and then it would be several more months without that, and it wouldn't impact this biennium. So that's why I'm trying to get, I mean, I suppose I could go through this, we could bring it back tomorrow, I could go through this and do that, and we could move this off this agenda to tomorrow, and I could present it with you, to you again at a 35% rate.
I'm good with 35.
I say get her done and just do 35.
Let's just do it, but print out their card again.
Boy, did we have a lot of meetings about the printing.
We lose a bunch of massage therapists, so then we don't get anything, because they're gonna say, I might as well work at McDonald's. Insurance doesn't cover me. Well, now it's illegal to put my insurance fees higher. Or all of these things, I know. But then when they learn that, they're gonna say, I don't make any money doing this and now this, and I don't even get my freaking card and picture. I'm quitting.
They do get a card. They just have to print it.
I know, and they complain about it.
It's exactly I mean, well, I know they complain about it, but it's like,
Years ago.
Yeah.
it's,
I know.
here's the thing, if I mail you a card, you can't work till you get it, right? So if I throw it in the mail and the mail gets lost, this happened to us many times. The reason we went to this system is that, during the kind of the COVID slowdown of mail and stuff, we were mailing our licenses to new people, new LMTs, and it would take 2 weeks. And the people are calling us every day. I have a job lined up. Can I go to work? No, you can't have it till you get your license. Well, I'm licensed. No, but you have to have it posted and you have to have it on your person. Now, the minute they get licensed, I can hit a button, they can print it and they can work tomorrow. They can work the same day. They can work the minute they get it. So it benefits them much more than having a piece of paper that we print versus them printing it themselves.
But they want to think, I'm paying this. They want to know they're getting something.
They want to think that the board is here to advocate for them.
They want to
That
know
isn't the
that-
actual,
Yes.
that isn't what the board does, and we can't.
Then we need to explain
do
it.
that.
Yes, and I think it comes down to explaining the funds and why it's increasing.
They want to see your friendly faces doing a meeting, like, here I am, this is the board.
And yet they don't show up.
Yeah,
To
none of
the
them are
meeting.
here.
Yeah,
None of them.
no, not one.
Oh, Rock is here, Jenny's here.
Oh, yay!
Okay, so we know what we have to do, so let's
Figure out how to do
All
it.
right, let's do
go
it.
forward here. So what I'm hearing is we could say do an overall increase of 35% with the exceptions of the late.
With the exceptions noted in the.
Exceptions noted in.
Yeah,
Let's say no change.
in the proposal.
For January.
That would be,
All in
yeah, we just
accordance
need
with
someone to
January.
move, to make a motion.
I move to increase the fees by 35%, except as noted in option 1, with an implementation date of January 1st, 2025.
I second that.
I third that.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Do you think you also probably maybe might want to have a vote to initiate the rulemaking then? Because you'll have to do rulemaking.
Yeah, it's gotta go to rules hearing, right? The rule hearing
Oh, okay.
process.
So
I was just
move
gonna
to
say
take
that.
the proposal
Hold on
fee.
1 second.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So we just need to take this to the rules committee, or the rules process, how you want to say.
It needs to go through the rules making process, right?
Right, so you just vote to initiate rulemaking to implement the changes of the fees.
Whoever does it.
Can I get a motion?
I will move to take the proposed fee increases to the rules making process.
Can I get a second?
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries, thank you. Okay.
That took a long time.
That was.
That was a good
It
deal.
It was a great business.
Would, because it's a big deal.
It-
It's a real big deal, so.
Which
Needs
was
to be
needed
discussed.
for a 35%
Does
increase.
that mean they get their cards printed out?
No.
I'll tell you what,
Okay.
we do print cards out, actually. People ask us sometimes to print out cards.
We'll print it up for $25.
Yeah.
It's in the fee schedule.
If you ask the board, they'll print it.
Yes. For a fee, a small fee.
But see,
Okay.
now Melissa, you're an advocate for all of those people to explain why.
Exactly.
I've been on the board, I know exactly why this stuff is done.
And what the benefits are. They
What the
probably don't see the benefits of
Yeah.
getting their license renewed or issued immediately
Instantly, yeah.
rather than wait.
It's why we have to have long conversations about these things. We're not just coming in and being like, no, 35% increase. No, we talked about it, we figured out why.
And then we pocket that money, yeah, we don't do that.
Okay.
That goes for everything.
Let's all take a deep breath.
No, I was just gonna say Beckett was about to say something.
I was gonna say, let's go on to our public comments. Thank you. Yeah, public comments and correspondence. We have four correspondences. And I don't believe we have any public here unless I'm not seeing
Oh,
someone.
we do. We have one.
We do have one.
Oh, yeah, I recognize that name.
Okay.
Yeah, she's on the committee.
Yeah.
Okay. Then we're gonna start with correspondences. So first off, do we have any comments or questions about, from the board or staff on the correspondence?
Yes. There was that one correspondent from Virginia about being part of the emergency, activating LMPs in the case of emergency.
Yes.
So that they can have massage therapists come in, if the board wanted LMPs to be part of that list. So we brought it to you so you can make that decision.
Yeah, so there's and LMTs have been on this list. I think this is do you want to renew it? Because LMTs have been on this list. It's called Serve Oregon. And so when there's a disaster, national emergency, something of that nation, firefighting, they have these, it's basically a state emergency registry for volunteers. And you can register on it, and if they have a need for that particular profession, then they can reach out to you and you can say yea or nay whether you want to go help them or not. And so there's a memorandum of understanding between the board and Serve Oregon that says that, that LMTs can do this. And we have signed it in the past. This would be kind of a continuation of what we've done in the past. So we brought it because this letter's to the board and that's you guys.
So this is something that if we would like to do this again, we can just give direction to the staff.
Yep, and I'll sign this. We'll get the memorandum signed and it has no impact on anything that we're doing right now. It's basically a continuation of what we've done for many years.
Any questions or comments about this?
It sounds like they're switching to an automated system.
They are, yep.
Would that cost us anything to integrate into?
Nope.
Or no, because everything's already online anyway?
Yeah.
Okay.
If it costs money, you know we ain't going.
Yeah. We wouldn't bring it, but we
just talked about it. Thank you. Yeah, no, I'm all for that.
Was that a motion?
Do we have to make a motion for that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I thought we could do them as a group.
Oh,
We had talked about that in our meeting. Do we need to do them individually or as a group?
I think just for this one, though.
Okay.
I think we can try.
Okay, can I get a motion?
I move to provide Serve or with the information that they need in order to be in this program.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries, thank you. Do we have, let's see, then we have the two from the VA.
I think you guys did have a, did you guys go?
I
think
have to read
okay,
something.
hold on a second. Angie just has something to add, I think.
I think there was somebody that wanted to do public comment. Do you guys, I think.
I have to read something before we do that, so we can do that, but let me go ahead and read my script. Okay. Public comment is limited to matters on the public meeting agenda or otherwise relevant to matters that may come before this agency. Comments will not be allowed that are longer than the time allotted by the chair or are disruptive to the agency's conduct of its business. Any member of the public who would like to address the board, please turn your camera on. When called upon by the chair, please turn on your microphone and state your name and license number for the record. Please keep comments to 2 minutes or less. And let's go ahead and begin with you, Jenny.
Well, thank you, but I don't remember my license number. Jenny Rock, I really don't remember it. Do you really need it? I don't know it. I'd have to look it up.
No worries.
Okay. So I have a few things that I wanted to talk about. So one of them is that I just recently discovered that in order to have an active business license, every massage therapist has to have a license in any particular city that they practice in. And so for people who do out calls, they would need a license in every single city that they might work in: Tigard, Beaverton, Portland, King City, whatever. Every little license, every city requires its own thing. And when I spoke to the Beaverton people, they said that there are contractors, like for building and construction, they have some kind of, it's like 33 cities in one license, except Portland, which wants its own thing. And I just think that maybe there's something the board could do to help make that happen, because I don't think as an individual, if I tried to call each city and say, hey, can we do something about this, that they'd listen. But I just wonder if the board could step in and kind of propose some kind of, I don't know, thing like the contractors do. So if you're a contractor, you don't have to have a license to operate in each city, because apparently every single massage therapist who's doing out calls is in violation unless they have this license in every city. So that's thing number one. Thing number two is that I'm concerned, and I did email Jeff about this, about the ethics of dating clients. And I'm not talking about all the inappropriate stuff. I'm talking about like a real dating situation, that all other professions seem to have some kind of rule about it. And I don't think we do. I couldn't find one. Jeff couldn't find one. And so people are kind of left to their own moral compass about if they see a client and they want to date, what that means, and can they just start dating tomorrow? Should they wait a year? Is it something like 6 months or not at all? And I think it creates a lot of confusion for clients. I think it creates confusion for body workers in terms of just the ethics of that. And I think it would bypass some issues of appropriateness if we had some kind of standard. And I think we should have a standard. The other thing I wanted to comment on just from this meeting is that I support the increase in the fees. And I'm from Florida originally, where we had an establishment license that we had to pay for the location, as well as our personal license. So even where it looks like the personal license is lower, there is an establishment license. So, and that was an annual thing, and it was much higher than the personal license. So I think you guys are I think you're in line with this. And I think if you explain to everybody that there hasn't been an increase in, 6 years, and there wasn't one for 6 years before that, and it's not kept up with cost of living, and we've waived fees, or the board has waived fees for COVID and made exceptions, I think people will be on board. Plus, we need to be self-supporting.
Thank you, Jenny.
Thank you, Jenny.
There you go. I think that's everything that I had. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Yes.
Can I add some context to the one section she just talked?
Yep.
Regarding the relationship rule that Jenny is speaking of, we do have rules that quasi cover it. I agree with Jenny that they're not well defined in that early relationship stage of where you might be flirty or want to go out coffee or that kind of thing. It clearly says you won't have sex with a client. It clearly says that you won't use your position as a position of advantage and et cetera in order to maybe not coerce, but you know, manipulate the situation. That Howard differentiate. But I agree with Jenny that I think this is something we might want to send to our new rules group to discuss some options. A lot of professions have a cool-off, mandatory 30-day, 6-month cool-off period before you're allowed to, where you have to separate your professional relationship before you start personal. And so I think maybe some research done by the rules subcommittee and seeing what other similar professions do or what they may have rules in other states that relate to this, and see whether or not, bring that back to the board to see whether or not we want to consider adding that in future rules. I just want to know from the compliance standpoint, I believe Jenny's assessment is accurate. Not that we haven't enforced them before, but they are not as clear as they could.
So it sounds like maybe this is something that we can put on the agenda for a future meeting to discuss, and then decide if we want to send this to committee.
Mm-hmm. And thank you, Jenny, for bringing that up to us.
Yep.
Clarification.
Was there, and the others, the first thing you wanted to bring up, just want to clarify, I believe that is out of the purview of our board to be involved in
the
that.
business
correct?
license thing? I would recommend going to AMTA or ABMP and seeing if they could do something about getting a group together to, the trade organization saying, hey, we represent all these licensees and we would like you to help us to go in and see if we can get, some sort of a co-op together where if you work in these, I think they have a lot of government relations people that do that. And I think they could be beneficial. I think that's the first stop, I think.
Yeah, I not that it isn't important, but I don't know where it would fall under our purview to do that, so.
It's also not specific to our state. That's everywhere I've ever worked. You have to have a license for every town that you want to work in. So if you want to be able to work anywhere in the Las Vegas Valley, for example, you need 6 licenses. You need your LMT license, you need a state business license, and then you need a county business license for each county that you're working. That's hard.
Okay, thank you for bringing that, Jenny. Let's go ahead and go back to our correspondence.
I have a comment about that. This very issue of different jurisdictions charging, requiring, fees from massage therapists who work in several jurisdictions. This is the genesis of the organization that was created by the California legislature, the California Massage Therapy, I think, association, that voluntary certification that they have in California. One of the the benefits that people get from that voluntary certification is that they don't have to pay these redundant fees. That's why it started. They've got a whole other thing. They'll never have statewide licensing there, but there is some precedent for some legislative movement on something like this, frankly. So I just wanted to say that I think it is a good idea, and I think it is really a shame that people, particularly those who are doing alcohol, to have to pay for a business license in several jurisdictions, when they're working there. That's all I got.
Thank you for that context, Carol. Appreciate it. Okay, we're gonna go back to correspondence. On to the VA. So we have VA on massage licensing.
Yes.
Bob, I think you wanted to say something about that?
Yes, I'm gonna pull up something here real quick. So every state in the United States in the outlying jurisdictions received this letter from the VA. And what the VA is going to do is they have the ability on the federal level for, under a federal law, that they can basically allow people to work in their VA facilities without well, they have to have a license, but it can be in any state. So what the VA is trying to do is they're trying to do an interstate compact only in VA facilities. And they're making their own standards of practice. They're saying LMTs will do this. This is the standards of practice for LMTs. And then they're saying that any LMT employed by the Veterans Administration can work in any VA facility nationwide. And basically they're not subject. So if they violate your rules and it's not our rules that they violate. So if they're doing something we tell them to do and it violates your rules, tough. Basically is what they're telling us. And they asked if we had any comments about that. They also asked if we would basically change our laws or our rules to say that what they're deciding to do is okay. And most boards, well, every board that I've talked to nationwide, and I've talked to quite a bit of them, just basically say, we have our own autonomy. We're a state agency that license our own board, or license our own people. We're not going to change our law to because of you. Also, there's an interstate compact that's out there. So basically the compact is already there. If you want to do something like this, why don't you, the VA has already paid to have the interstate compact stuff done. It was a grant from the Veterans Administration that started the interstate compact. And FSMTV received the grant and actually did the committee and did all the work. So the veterans have already had a grant. They paid to have the compact built. And now in their VA hospitals, they're also trying to have this other side to it. Maybe the compact didn't go quick enough for them. It's not taking traction like they thought it might. I don't know. But most agencies are basically responding, we're not going to change our rules. And there's a compact that you guys already paid for that maybe you should look at that. And it doesn't throw support to it or against it. It just says we're not going to change our rules. That's what every agency that I've seen and talked to at the national level has responded to the VA. It's not derogatory to them, and it's certainly something we could probably support. I think the biggest concern from us licensing boards is it takes away a state's ability if they violate a particular rule of our board, and it's not a violation of their issue. Now, they have said that their rules are consistent with ours, so there's nothing that's against our rules. There's nothing that's different than our rules because they've already done the research. That doesn't mean they can't change it next month, and update their rules and make it different. So they're not asking for anything, but if you have a comment, you don't have to make a comment. And most agencies are just saying, like I told you, that we're not going to change our rules. We have a responsibility to protect the public in our state. And have you heard about this compact you paid for? And thank you for the information. That's basically how they're responding. And I would suggest we do the same unless you guys feel there's another way to respond to that.
I agree with that, Bob.
Yeah, I agree with you. My initial thought when reading this was, why don't they just lobby for the impact?
Yeah.
And why don't they just help the massage therapists get licensed in that state? They could do that as well.
And what is okay for them in the future and what is okay for us in the future may be incredibly disparate.
That'd be different, yeah.
I think that could be a big problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, with this one, can we just,
respond that way?
just respond, I guess,
Do we have to move to direct staff to respond?
No, it's just board direction, I think. If everybody agrees, I don't know, I think you can just direct me that way.
Angie, do you want votes on all of that, or do we just give direction to Bob, for Bob to respond to that?
Yeah, because you're not like saying you agree, you're just saying this is, so I don't think there necessarily needs to be a direct vote.
Yeah, we're just saying thanks for the info.
If anybody doesn't agree, I guess if anybody doesn't agree, chime up right now, but if not.
Yeah, let us know.
And then the the last one we have would be also from the VA. Is that the standard of practice letter?
Yeah. I apologize for having my arms crossed. It's getting chilly.
I'm really cold.
Oh, I'm
What
sorry.
is
I'll
it?
try to.
I raised it to 70, but it still didn't stop blowing.
Well, when I checked it last time, it wasn't on cool, so I switched it to cool, and now.
I think it's great. I'm always warm.
Watch out in the
Yeah,
rain.
this is for the national standard.
Turn the fan down. That's it.
Yeah, this is related to the other side.
Yeah.
This is their national standard of practice. This is related to the other letter, basically. This is the standard of practice they're going to use to allow their massage therapists the VA's massage therapists to move nationwide.
Seems like they went to a lot of trouble to do something that was akin to writing a job description.
Absolutely. I agree. Kind of all scratching my head. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of lawyers involved in this.
Yeah.
So can we wrap these together?
Mm-hmm. I mean, you can if you want. Yeah, I think so.
Any other questions or comments about that?
No.
Okay.
Did we have to talk about the guidance on political activity for board and commission members? We just.
Yeah, so that's just for your information. That came out from, the governor basically, and the governor just wanted to make you all aware of what you can do and can't do as a board member. You can certainly do anything as a citizen, but if you're going to present yourself as a board member or use that title, then there are certain restrictions on your political activity. And so I put that in there just so I'd sent you an email with that information also, but I wanted to have it here so you guys could ask me questions if you'd like.
Are there any questions on those guidelines?
No.
Thank you. Okay, then we are going to go ahead and move on to announcements. Okay, first announcement is our next meeting will be tomorrow, Saturday, September 28th. Back in this room. Where are we?
COCC. Central Oregon Community College.
I wrote the wrong acronym. COCC. The public are invited to join in person or virtually. There will be a hybrid meeting, and the following meeting after that will be on November 4th, also a hybrid meeting, and we'll be back at the Hampton Inn Suites in Salem. Do we have any other announcements?
I do.
Yes.
6:30 reservation tonight for the team dinner.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. Any other announcements?
No other announcements.
Nothing else? Okay, then at this point, we are ready to adjourn the meeting. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
I motion to adjourn this meeting.
I'll second. Can I get a second? Okay, we have a motion on the floor. All in favor of adjourning the meeting?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. It is 3:05 PM. Our meeting is adjourned.
Until I hear that not recorded.
So Angie knows that she's just gonna be on break.
She's still recording.
Yep, we're still recording.
Angie?
Okay, so we're
So
still recording.
For tomorrow, I think we told you, but maybe we didn't. We don't need you tomorrow for the